G'day, people. How are we today? It's another fine Friday leading up to the Queensland state election. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm personally predicting a massive landslide of Labor candidates falling away from their seats and into the abyss where they belong, and it will be a beautiful sight to be seen. Of course, is it just a fantasy of mine, or is it a reality based on what we've seen in the recent Northern Territory election? I think we're in with a pretty good chance of seeing Labor with a massive cascade failure. I mean, let's face it, we've seen articles with, Stephen Miles being accused of being political kryptonite. And, Albo, is he doing anyone any favors other than himself? It's truth. It's a shit show, boys and girls. It's a shit show. But hey, look, what better way to start off a Friday than a big sips? I've been told I need to cut back on the sips a bit. It's one of those things. But it's Friday. I think I earned it. Even with the back injury, I did go in and give today a bit of a crack at work, and can't be a lazy bum. Can't sit around doing nothing. Got to make sure we've got fresh coin in the bank for the government to steal and redistribute so that they can buy my votes. It's just the way we go. I'm going to start with a couple of g'days. G'day, Jan. First cap off the rank. How are you today? Queensland vote the majors out tomorrow. I must say I am inclined to agree. I've already gone down and cast my vote, and I can assure you that that's exactly as I've been stating for quite some time. Greens last, Labor second last, Liberal third last. What happens outside of that? Well, look, that's up to you guys. I don't want to sway people's opinions too much. Obviously, if you're in Mundingborough where I'm at, you only got two other options left, which is One Nation or Katter Party. Go take your pick. Whether one or the other is in seat one or two, I think it's a pretty good situation. As I learned a long time ago, it really is only the first two that are going to get counted. The chances of them going to a third, or I think it's only ever happened like maybe once or twice, sort of thing, as I understand it. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But as far as I know, basically your first choice is how you go, your second one goes, and then it's pretty much done for. That's my understanding of it. I may be incorrect. That was basically told to me by Troy Thompson, whose word may not be worth as much as I'd like to think. We'll see how it just pans out. But when I did the original One Nation videos. So g'day Pam, how are ya? Daniel, what's going on, mate? Yes, and g'day to all the freedom fighters and of course the freedom lovers out there. There we go. I've got to run comments by myself for at the moment. All my aides and assistants are, out on smoko at the moment. Yeah, it's a wonderful term. I'm surprised they're still allowed to say the term smoko. Getting around today, I noticed the term is still, pretty vibrant. The term smoko still gets around to the extent that, I'm standing there at one particular job. I'm not going to name names and point fingers and whatnot, but I'm at a job and, I'm like, paperwork's gone south. I can't do anything because the paperwork's south. I mean, in a normal world where we weren't relying on paperwork and computers, it's like, well, we know this has got to get from here to there, and my truck's there ready to do that. So let's put it on the truck and we'll take it there. It seems like a pretty simple situation, but apparently, g'day Susan, how you going? Nice to see you all the way, from Scotland watching again. Deb, how's it going? But it's amazing in this modern world with a simple point of logic. This needs to go on this truck so I can drive it to there. So easy. But computers and paperwork somehow intervene here and make it so painful for me to actually do my job. I lost 2 hours sitting around, stuffing around, and when we finally get to the person, for the chain of events, to the person who ordered it to call the place I'm picking it up from, and they're on smoko. The whole lot of them all out on smoko. No one's left to answer the goddamn phones, for fuck's sake. Like, what is wrong with this world? So of course, I'm sitting there, my boss calls me and goes, right, here's the phone number for who they are. when one of them finally gets off bloody smoko, can you call and sort this out for me? Oh, yeah, right, I'll do everyone's job. I'm just a truck driver, but apparently I'm doing, all these other, administrative jobs as well. Perhaps I should buck for a pay rise, specifically things I've gone in when I've got a certificate that says I don't have to. But, that's the kind of good bloke I am. I'm a hard worker, so sips to that. Hey, Pam, how you going? And, of course, T2Q2Q. I get lost with that one. I'm sorry, man, but I know you're a regular. Love to see it, but yeah, it's a tongue twister you got there. Do you do that just to fuck me up? Actually, you know what? I think it's about time I asked, dude. Perhaps you can explain what that is. What is T2Q2Q? Please, I do. It's killing me. I need to know. Barista Pan, how are ya? Sorry, I don't drink coffee, so I'm probably going to be unimpressed unless you do something with like a hot chocolate or something, maybe, and it doesn't get that cold here. Sips, it's 11 a.m. Hubby vodka here. Have a wee one. Just a wee vodka. Well, as you can see, I got a little here myself. Adrian, how are you, mate? Oh, what better time to mention the wonderful service? Well, I'm using it right here, right now. North Queensland Freedom Network coasters available here. That's one of my favorite. I love the Timber one, and she's a good price too. So I'll just get under this pile of crap I've got going on over here because it's one of them weeks. Get ready to stir the shit, with your shit stirrer spoons available here now. You can get amazing prints like this where the day I gave Pauline Hanson the idea of the cartoon that we are going to have a bit of a look at momentarily. And of course, buried it. And we do have other options for coasters too. So, as we go through the drink coaster menu, the raw wood one, which is currently in use, as you can see by the it's got that lovely stain sort of going on there, which I think adds a great deal of character to it. I quite like it. I'm a fan of it, probably because it absorbs a bit of the moisture, which is, up here in North Queensland, we get a bit of condensation on the side of the drink. It can be a bit of a problem, we have the painted wood version, so that was $3 for that one. These are $5, and these ones are going out at $8. Ooh, I should get around the right way, and look at that lovely picture of me. If you can stomach it any further after having watched me for hours and hours on end. I know our friends at the Townsville Bulletin and Channel 10, they love to watch me regularly. They're big fans of the show, to the extent they even give me like 3.5 minute exposés on Channel 10, which is, wow, you've got to be really important to get that kind of coverage because they usually only do stories on, people for like 45 seconds to a minute if you're lucky, So let's face it, I must be pretty big stuff around the Channel 10 newsroom, possibly because they employed me at one time. So anyway, of course, those wooden spoons was $7.50. Maybe we can talk about some sort of a deal if we're buying in bulk for things too. Just shoot me an email if you're keen on these sorts of things, and it's all compliments of Crazy Adrian. He is the man here, and I'm going to slowly do like get that angle right. Maybe if the camera will it's not doing its thing. But Crazy Adrian's laser cook down inquiries at the number I'm trying not to cover up. Give him a call. He does some great work. If you want some of this sort of stuff done for yourself, give him a bell. Great bloke. Why wouldn't you want to help out a fellow freedom fighter, hey? If you're interested in any of these products, please drop me an email. Obviously, this email is at North Queensland Freedom Network at protonmail.com, as it is every week. It's the best way to get a hold of me. I've noticed, look, I have to tell you, there's quite a few people who contact me via social media. It's not the best way to do it. trust me, like I try to actually avoid social media myself. I know it's a shocking thing. A man who's on social media quite often, doing podcasts and whatnot, tends to avoid it. Look, I'm shit at checking these things. I do have some people who check certain profiles for me, and some of them are coming back with some comments like, "Oh my God, this person again." They send you 10 things a day, and guys, look, I'm sure everything you're coming across in your mind is like huge and whatnot, but you like maybe give it like a day check, go, right, here's the 20 things I wanted to send him, put them in like a little list or something, somehow email them to yourself or whatnot, and then check over them the next day and go, is it really relevant, or was I just excited in the moment? It's a lot of stuff to go through. And like I said, I've got to enlist help to get through a lot of this stuff. So, if it is important and it's something that, that the people need to see, this email is the way to do it. All right. It's don't use social medias. It's just not the best way to do it. Of course, please consider becoming a Patreon, because that's the best way for me to be able to provide this service. Once we've got enough Patreons going, this becomes a full-time job, and the quality and the quantity of this stuff is going to be, tenfold. It's just going to be the way it should be. Of course, we've got to GoFundMe to help work with the Indigenous doco, because I'm going to have to take time off of work in order to sort this thing out. It's a huge project we've got going. It's hours and hours of footage I've got so far, and we've got hours and hours and hours more to get. So please, by all means, chuck a couple of bucks in there if you can, help us out. And the link tree, which is in the description there, you can find all our social media. Should one disappear for some reason or another, YouTube, it's skating on thin ice. You've just got to mention Bill Gates in some not nonchalant way, and all of a sudden the account's gone, But isn't it interesting what's happening with Bill Gates? But that'll be a discussion for Sunday. All right, so I reckon one of the best ways to kick this off will be to start with the a bit of a Pauline Hanson, cartoon. I haven't actually seen it. I just seen it was it's an election-related one, and I think it's very important to what we're doing here today. So let's have a watch together. It'll be my first time. We get to watch it all together. So, and one day, Pauline and Stephen Ashby, or James Ashby, may actually turn around and go, you know what, that guy in Townsville, fuck, he was a good bloke, and it was such a good thing for him to do, to mention this to us, and look at how successful it is. Maybe one day I'll hear that.
Oh, this is it. We've waited 3 long years for this, son. Get ready.
But none of it matters, Dad. It's all rigged.
Shh, starting. Welcome back to Queensland, the battle for the Premier Belt and the coveted title of the King of the North.
And we've seen some epic battles here this evening. Jim Chalmers wrestled with the RBA and lost badly, and he got to experience what real downward pressure feels like. Anthony Albanese grappled with the truth again, but walked away with injuries that were all self-inflicted.
Sure, Jody, let's buy a house in Copacabana. That'll be a good look.
King Charles was in the house, and Lydia Thorpe called him out.
Not my king!
She hates this organisation, Steve, but still has the audacity to keep taking home all that taxpayer money.
But now it's time for the main event. These two political lightweights go head-to-head. In the red corner, we've got the reigning Premier for the Labor Party, Stephen Giggle Miles. And his opponent in the blue corner, it's David, the LNP wee Crisafulli.
Yeah, go Crisafulli! You know, he might look weak and feeble and pathetic, but I reckon he's going to knock the smile off Miles' face.
Oh, and here comes Stephen Miles with a signature move, the pork barrel. Oh, look at him go. He's on a spending spree. He's throwing so much money around.
Yeah, a desperate move from a desperate man. But what's Crisafulli going to do to counter?
Oh, he's just copying Miles' every move.
See, they're exactly the same.
Nah, they're heaps different.
One's blue, one's red. Come on, Dad, you don't actually believe this, do you? It's all a lie. They just pretend to be different, but they're actually exactly the same.
Oh, nah, they hate each other. Look, they're trying to knock each other out.
It's awesome. You see, Dad, it's all theatre. It's scripted. It's just a show. It doesn't matter who wins. Things will never change. It'll always be a pointless fight between two opposing camps who are as bad as each other.
Wait, son, are you saying that it's all fake?
They don't actually care about us, no matter who wins. we lose.
Oh, Miles is on the ropes here, but the audience just don't seem to care anymore.
It seems like they're having a collective epiphany here, Steve. They're disillusioned with the whole electoral process.
You see, Dad, it's all performative political theatre.
You're right. They just take in turns holding the Premier belt, and no matter what, they always win, and we always lose.
If only we could vote for a candidate that would actually fight for us.
Huh?
Whoa, what's going on? Pauline Hanson's One Nation have entered the political arena, and they look angry.
Wait, Dad, look!
There's still hope after all. Whoa, James Aspey's picked up a seat, and he's causing some real damage to the government. Oh, One Nation have picked up a bunch of seats.
That'll keep the bastards honest.
Finally, some real change, and this Queensland crowd are absolutely loving it.
We're finally seeing the contest we deserve, and this One Nation team will never stop fighting for Queensland. Woo! Woo!
Oh. Well, that was a corker. I like that one. It kind of took me a little bit back to, I don't know if you remember, what was it called again? What was that Claymation? Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah, that was what it was. Celebrity Deathmatch. That was a great show. The nipples, yeah, those bath plug nipples on Stephen Miles. That was definitely a perler. So, all right. So that was a good way to start. We have a couple of guests starting to roll in the background here. Since we started with a bit of One Nation, I think we might jump straight in with a bit of Stephen Clare, who's running for the seat of Tyrannical. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. And you?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks heaps for joining us, man. Can you hear me?
You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Good?
Yeah, all good, mate.
No worries, mate. Good.
Thanks heaps for coming out, mate. So tell us, how's the campaigning going for you so far out in Tyrannical?
It's good, mate. It's tough, tired, 10 days, burnout, but we're going all right. I think Ruben's a little bit in front of us anyway, but he's going good.
Oh, I've seen some, rather substantial billboards. I think it was coming down Ingham Road today. He's punched a few bucks into that big electronic billboard there to get his mug up there today. And best of luck to Reuben. I got no problem with Reuben. He's a good bloke. He's been a supporter of the network for quite some time, and the only KAP candidate who's had the stones to come on so far and say g'day.
Yeah, mate.
So what's it like down in the polling booth, mate?
Mate, look, I'm really tired, so I'm probably not going to be a real joyous mood, mate. Just really tired. Everyone's tired down there. They're getting a bit cranky. It's just everyone's just doing their own thing. A little bit of blueing going on. We're just staying out of it. We're just sitting back watching.
Righto.
Yeah, it's going all right.
So when you say there's some blue in there, come on, I mean, after seeing the celebrity death match sort of thing going on there with the Pauline Hanson cartoon, can you give us a little bit of juicy details, perhaps?
No, nothing too much, mate. Just tittle-tatting on each other. They're running inside and dobbing the other mob. We won't say any names or anything, but, dobbing each other in for a little petty shit. Just
so kind of like the Miss, he stole my lunch, or the Miss, he looked at me funny.
Yeah, it's sort of pretty boring down there. If you're not going hard and trying to win votes, there's not much happening. So when a little bit of action happens, it's all good for a few minutes, and you're back to boring old life again. So yeah, it's nothing too exciting down there, mate. I wish there was something to report on, but there's not really much going on down there. It's the same thing. Turn up at the same time. Everyone jostles for positions. Once everyone knows where they're going to be every day, that took a couple of days to sort that out. And, we don't have the biggest flashes gear or the flashes tent, so we're quite happy down the back there on the corner.
Yeah.
Everything's good. Yeah.
So a bit of a push for who gets their tent in the primo spot sort of thing.
Yeah. Generally, once you work all that out, it sort of goes pretty smoothly. Yeah. We don't have a tent, so we're easy. We get along quite good. We just fit in anywhere, mate.
Yeah, just keep moving.
How big your signs are, how flat your tent is. Just got to get in there and get the job done. Win as many votes as you can.
Have you had, any good public relations stories to share, from people you've come across?
Media's left me alone. Like I said to you last time we got on here, mate, they don't give me page time or anything. So the cameras haven't been anywhere near me. I got to
Yeah.
give a big thank you out to the Bulletin because they saved me a shitload of money this time. So I got to thank them.
How so?
This one's not going to be very expensive. This one's going to be quite cheap for me, mate. It's only about 5-6 grand, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And it's not about winning. It's just we just keep turning up. I'm running as a candidate, but couldn't really find anyone that wanted to get up and have a go, so I stood up again. I'm not going to do it
Yeah.
again. This is, I'm 61 now. Got to find some younger guys next time. So, but we just keep turning up. Our group, we just keep showing up every election. We find a candidate, stand them up. We don't care where they're from, who they are, as long as they've got good morals and we think along the same lines and want to do good things. We support anybody. So,
Fair
it's going all
enough.
right.
Yeah, nice, mate. Nice. So,
Also,
how
some
have
good-
your signs been going? Because I know there's been, a bit of talk about signs being ripped down left, right, and centre. I understand you even had your tyres stolen off one of your
yeah,
trailers.
mate. That goes on, mate. You just sort of laugh about that. Just sort of you think the Bulletin would do a story on that one, but they wouldn't even put that in the paper. So they're weak as piss, eh? I wonder why
Yeah,
people sort of turn on them and don't buy their paper, mate. And I can see why. I mean, I've buying it every day for 20 years now. Not that I believe everything that's in it, but I can see why people don't read it.
yeah,
There's plenty of good opportunities for good stories out there, and the reporters seem like they're shackled. They don't want to. They're all young, and they should be jumping on a story every time they get one, and they just don't. So
yeah.
they're
It
quite
is.
happy to give the big parties get all the page time. Like if you see in the paper, you see what's going on, but I can't even get my name in there. They done a story on all the cars the other day. LNP, ALP, KAP, but none of the smaller guys. Me, Wes, Natasha, none of us got a look in. I didn't even get a call,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
certainly
Because
not
you got
helping us in any way.
so is a couple of independents out your way, correct? In
Just the
Thuringow,
one, at Therangow.
just the one. Yep.
Natasha Lane, she's going all right.
Yeah.
Her and Josh are really good guys, mate, and they're youth workers. And when you listen to them talk, mate, they really know what's going on. Like it's funny how the people who myself, Natasha and her husband, and the smaller guys, we all know what's going on around the town. We all know how to fix the problems, but we just don't get a look in. No one's
Oh
going to
wow.
listen to us. But
Well,
that's just what you got to do.
it's sad that and again, it just shows what a horrific state our current media is in. Where
Yeah,
there's candidates there who can't get a voice out, and I'll have to apologise to some of them out there too. I haven't been able to sort of really get out there and chase down a lot of the the smaller people like I normally would have this time round. Had personal issues, my back problem and whatnot myself, so it's been a bit hard. But that's what the network's here for, and I kind of hope that particularly in future elections that other candidates will go, hey, well, this is the place to come to get your voice out.
yeah.
So
So, look, as I said to you before, last time I was on here, mate, I as a independent candidate, I had no chance, and now as a One Nation candidate, I got a better chance.
mm,
Started a bit late. Once I jumped ship from independent to One Nation, the whole game plan went out the window. So it's like I had to start all over again. All security and the bankruptcy stuff that took weeks, and mate, it just slowed us right up. So we're behind the eight ball from the start. Didn't have the merchandise, getting gear up, trying to get tents and stuff. It just all sort of we were one of the last ones to join, so we missed out on the tents and all the good stuff.
all right,
You need the big bright tents so people can see you and know where you are.
yeah.
But I'm there one more day and see how I go. Like I said, if I can double my my votes as from the federal election, I'll be happy. So I've got to get double 942, so 1,884 votes. That's where I'm looking.
Okay,
I think
right. And does
I think
that
that's
means
achievable.
you get reimbursed for everything you've spent? Is that how that works?
No, that just means I put a smile on my face, mate. I haven't even gone down
Oh,
that road yet. I don't know what the
rightio.
threshold is. I don't know if it's 4. Someone on there might be able to tell us. Actually, put the call out, see what the law is, because I haven't even looked into it yet. I know that
Yeah,
there's so much percentage. I
yeah,
don't know how much
I
the
can't
party gets, and
remember
I
off
don't
the
know how
top of
much
my
I
head.
get. So yeah,
The number six
I
percent is
haven't.
popping into my head for some reason, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm not even
sure.
worried about that sort of stuff, mate. I'm too busy trying to get votes, mate. I'll worry about all that shit after tomorrow. I haven't done it.
Yeah,
Haven't had a chance
fair
to do anything.
enough.
I'm tired. I don't even know who's doing what, mate. I haven't got a clue. Haven't been watching the news, mate. I'm hoping to find out something tonight off you guys. I hear Ruben's in front of um Labor Party. So I don't know if someone correct that. I think that's what's happening. I think LNP's
Well,
out
look,
front,
I,
then Ruben,
I I
then the
think
Labor Party. So
even the Liberal Party's quite disturbed because I got this in the mail today. You know, a vote for Qatar risks 4 years of Labor Greens alliances. Don't risk it.
yeah,
You know, and as
that's
you
it.
can see here, it's paid for by the Liberal National Party. It's got this wonderful little scratchy thing on it. You know, then we might
Yeah,
have a bit of a scratch of that and a bit of a play later when when I haven't got
they're
guests
they're a bit
queued up.
hard to get off, mate. I tried getting them off, but you can get them. Just make sure you got a good fingernail because they don't
Oh,
move real
right.
good.
So I have to see if we can find. Oh, here we go. Metal ruler. Surely the old metal ruler, good for cracking skulls and hopefully getting scratchy things off as well. Would you like to play? We'll play scratch to lose the Qatar party. Let's see what the propaganda in my mailbox today is.
So while you do
So
that, I'm just
we
going to grab a bottle of water out of the fridge. It'll be 1 sec.
Nah, go for it, mate. You grab that bottle of water. So the first thing is Stephen Miles. Isn't it? It's a fun little game, you know. Like I have to admire their creativity, you know. And so we'll treat this like a lot of viewers out there probably aren't aware of these things. They're called unboxing videos, and there's actually like podcasters out there who buy products and unbox them, and then do a video about it, which is really interesting. So I'm kind of doing the same thing with the Qatar lottery. Oh, look out, Greens is the next one, you know. It's pretty funny. And like what this really demonstrates to me is how scared the Liberal Party is. But the Labor Party are equally having their go at the Qatars as well, I've noticed. So, you know, and obviously
Mark,
Labor.
who'd ever thought the LNP and the KAP would be going at each other? Never seen that one coming.
Yeah. Well,
Never
that's
seen
it.
that
Like, I
coming at all.
mean, the general consensus and is that KAP does have alignments with the Labor Party, but as I understand it, minor parties continuously cut deals with whoever the party of the day is in order to sort of get a vote through. There's a lot of deal cutting that goes on, and I reckon if the Liberal Party was in power, the Qatar Party would probably be cutting deals with them too. And I'll look out, just to they were really creative. They put Stephen Miles' face in there again with youth crime, but the Qatar Party has a bit of a harsh policy to go on with that, with what they're proposing. Whether they get it through or not is another story. But castle law, I believe, is what they're pushing.
Long as the,
What does that say? Dangerous roads. Wow. We've all seen Pauline Hanson's State of Queensland. I'm pretty sure we'd all love to see some roads sort of going. Have you heard anything from the party about what they might, One Nation might do about the horrific state of the roads? It's assisted in my horrific back injuries.
no, mate. I've just been down the polling booths, mate. I'm away from everything at the moment.
Just doing your own thing.
This send them out bush thing that the KAP wants to do, that I'm all for that. But the only issues I have is I don't want our money winding up on some friend's cattle property, and nice big set of rooms and accommodation blocks and all that sort of stuff, and it all falls over, and some lucky bastard winds up with $1 million worth of gear. That's my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're going to send these kids out bush, I would like to know where, because we don't want them going to the friends of theirs or any associates. We don't want that. How they going to do that one?
Well, that is a good question. Like how it's going to happen, I think is
My
see what you mean
proposal
about
ages ago when
scratching
I
it
was
off. Whatever they put
they're
the
tough,
hack
aren't they?
on with, it's like the
Yeah.
grey part comes off all right, but the black part's a bit. It's this is what I would consider typical major party design. Like it looks great to start with, but when you actually try to implement it, it doesn't work very well.
No.
'Cause, yeah, like, getting the silver bit off's one thing, but getting this hat off, it's quite the challenge, and yeah, and I've just gone ahead and scratched them all because, like, let's not give the Liberal Party too much because, like, I'm not a big fan, like, as I said the other week, Liberal, Labor, it's toilet tennis. Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor, and any way you look at it, the seat I'm sitting in stinks. So, but as you can see, trying to scratch the hat off was a bit of a challenge, and it's really not very creative, like they've used the same logos over and over again. I guess it looks like Stephen Miles' face was the ultimate, the win or the lose in this particular case, But yeah, funny. It's funny, and I've never seen that kind of attack towards minor parties before. So to me, that suggests that the Katter Party obviously is gaining quite a lot of momentum in Townsville at the moment.
Yeah, so I can only talk about out at Tharangao. So if Reuben Richardson gets up, you knock out two of them. You knock out Labor and Liberal Party. So that excites me because I don't bat for either of them. So that'll be a good thing
Yeah.
out of their way. Aaron Harper will go and what's her name? Natalie Marr will go with him. So that'll be good if it happens that way. Let's don't get too far ahead, but that's how they will.
I'm tipping right now. Like Labor are gone 100%. I'm pretty confident that Michael's looking pretty good here in Mundingborough, and honestly, I think it's between you and Reuben as far as Thuringowa goes. I think what's going on on the
It's
blackboard.
pretty deceiving. It's deceiving for me down at Tharangao because we're just looking after me at Tharangao. That's it. And the other parties, the Labor, the LNP, and the Cap boys are handing out four lots of stuff. If you know what I mean, the four seats.
Mm.
So even
Yeah.
though the traffic through their camps is blitzing us, you've got to take into account that you can sort of divide it by four. So it's just pretty hard to work out where we're going. That's all. Because we're only backing me up, if that makes sense. We're not doing anything for the other guys. When those two One Nation guys didn't front up at the Woodman Court, we just walked away.
Right.
So I think on the Tuesday last week, I think there was 2 votes in it for me that come through Woodman Court for the whole day. So why would we stand there all day for 2 votes? So we just packed up and left.
Yeah, fair enough. So, so tomorrow's obviously the big day, though. So that all revved up, ready to rock.
Yeah, mate. Just try to get bed early, get some sleep. I'll be up at 4. Try and set a couple of camps up. Jeff, me CEO, which is my campaign election organizer, he'll be on the road as well. So we'll go set up a few things, and I'll be at my station by 8:00, which will be out at Vickers Road, out at Condon. So if someone wants to come down there and chat to me, that's where I'll be.
Yep.
We got a full crew on tomorrow. We missed a couple of polling booths because we just didn't have the numbers. So we dropped Rasmussen and Kelso. So anybody watching that's out that way, you're probably not going to see us. We done the numbers, and it wasn't a big win for One Nation out that way on previous elections. So we dropped them 2, and we just concentrate on the other 7. So we've got a full crew. We've got a couple of shifts going. So we've got all that covered. So we just do that and see how we go.
Well, obviously you want to get to bed and get ready for tomorrow, and I've got another guest here I want to bring in. So just one more question. I did notice I haven't had a chance to get out and have a look at the signs in fine detail as I drive past. I did see during the week there were a lot of orange signs getting around, looking like they were attempting to be some kind of One Nation sign, basically saying don't vote for LNP. It looked very Labor or Union-esque in a sense. It didn't clearly identify who it was, just using the One Nation colours. What can you tell us about that, mate?
I just think they've done that to not, so it didn't look like it was Labor or the LNP. I really don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, don't know much about it.
No, I didn't look into it. There's a few of them. There's some law that you can put extra signs down at the polling booths if they're endorsed by someone else or it's another affiliated. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it, but that's why they do it. They put these other signs up I really don't know the ruling on it because I haven't had a chance to look into it. But you only allowed 2 signs per candidate. So
Yeah.
there's a little trick there that all the big guys know about. Aaron Harper must know it because he's the main instigator. He's got eight to 10 signs out at the polling booth under different, endorsements. So, but these guys have been on it a long time. They know all the tricks and that. They get
Yeah.
the early voting out, the early voting, and sort of they get started well before the rest of us because they know what to do. The more of them you do, the more experience you get. Like I won't be running
Yeah.
again, but to anybody that I do help to run, I sort of get more experience as you do more, so you get better at it. I've done a couple now and helped a couple, but you still don't. You just keep learning.
Yeah.
So that won't be me running again, but we'll find some candidates at the next state election. I don't think we're going to run anybody at the federal election because it's just too big a job, and it comes around. I think it's in March. It's too much money. You're not going to knock
Mm.
Phil Thompson off at Herbert. You've got no hope of doing that. So anybody wants to run up against him want to have a big wallet and some big backing because being a military guy in Townsville, he won't be moving.
Yeah.
So
And he does seem like a
yeah,
genuinely pretty nice dude. Just a shame that he's with the Liberal Party as far as I'm concerned.
that's the thing, mate. I'm sure there's lots of good things. We had some words the other day down at the polling booth, and I understand where he's coming from. I'm sure there's dozens of things he wants to do, but the party just overrules him, and you just get pulled
Yeah.
back in your little slot, and you stay there. You sort of got to, you answer to them.
Mm. That is one of the problems
Anyway,
with
but
the
he won't
party
he won't be
politics.
going anywhere. He won't be going anywhere. He's young enough, and he's been a military guy like him, and they all speak well of him and everything. So it's going to
Mm.
take some big money to move him on. He'll be there for the next 4 or 5 elections, I'd say. He
Wow.
won't be going anywhere unless he does something really stupid or gets caught up in something. But no, he'll be around for
Mm.
a while. So anybody wants to think they're going to run for the seat of Herbert, you want to have your shit together. It certainly
Yep.
won't be me, and I'll be talking anybody out because it's not a good political move. I can tell you that. You're
Yeah.
going to have to really go to knock him over.
Mm.
So he's there for a while, that guy. So forget about the federal election. We'll just sit back now and wait for the next state election and find some good younger candidates. Yeah, we got one military fella wants to have a crack. I won't say his name because he mightn't like me too. So, but we'll find someone else.
Yep.
If this Reuben guy gets in and he goes well, I certainly wouldn't be wanting to run someone against him because you're not gonna if you're not going to take him down, what would be the point? As long as he does good things, you've got no reason to. So
Yeah.
if he gets in and he goes well, we'll let him go, leave him alone. There's 2 other seats we can go after. So anyway, that's where we're at.
All right, mate. Well, I might let you go get some rest, mate. Best of luck for you tomorrow,
No worries,
mate.
mate. I'll hang
Hopefully
around
it
a bit and have
all.
a bit of a watch, and then I'll sign off.
No worries, mate. So thanks heaps for
No worries,
coming
Mark.
on and throwing your 2 bobs in, mate. Not many people were willing to put their hand up to do that this time around. So much appreciated.
No worries, Mark. We might have another one after the election. There might be something that's worth talking about. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Won't know
yeah,
till
for
Sunday or
sure.
Monday.
Always welcome to come in and look, whether you get in or not, we need to keep an eye on politics here in town. And obviously, the state of affairs in Townsville has been pretty poor throughout the last year. So we got a lot to work on. And whoever gets in, regardless, needs to be held to account and kept an eye on. So, obviously, best of luck to you getting in yourself. But if that shouldn't happen, I'm sure you'll be a great asset to the community in keeping an eye
I'll
on
be
everyone
around
else.
somewhere. Look, I thought before I go, but let's just touch on that crime because I'm going to make a
Yep.
prediction. This crime is not going anywhere. So all your viewers, anyone in Townsville, this is going on. This isn't stopping. These guys, these kids are hardened criminals by the time they're 15, 16. You ain't going to turn them around. You've got to get them younger before they get fully corrupted. That's the only way you can do it, mate. These Christopherly and these Labor guys, I think they're just going to lock them up and do all these things. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
When you talk to some of these other guys down there, it's just not going to work, mate. I know that. It just ain't going to work. You lock them up, the jail's full. What are you going to do? Like I said before, you lock them up, you can let some of them out. Nothing's going to change. They haven't been taught right from wrong, and you just got to get, like I said, you got to go back to the parents. It's the parents' fault. They were doing bad behaviour when they were kids and their parents, and this list's not going to stop. You've got to break that
Mm.
cycle. The only way you're going to fix it. So all your viewers out there, people, nothing's going to change. So just be ready.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, Mark.
All right.
I'll
Well,
sign off,
thanks, mate. No
Thank
worries,
you.
buddy.
Bye all.
Rest
Thanks
well,
very
man.
much.
I'll talk to you soon. Take care, mate.
Thank you. See you guys.
So, Steve, that was Stephen Clare running for the seat of Thuringowa. There is a little, segue before I bring Monica in. So, Monica, if you want to get yourself prepared, I'll bring you up next. I'm just going to share the screen here. Now, there is a link to this, and I think maybe I've just used it a couple of times too many. It's not letting me give an example at the moment. But Turning Point Oz is something that I've recently come across. There is a link to this website. And obviously it's covering the Queensland state election, Victoria council elections, Stop Elbows Misinformation Bill, and the New South Wales council elections. You can just punch your address in here and whatnot. I was just clicking on these things before, and I'd click on Thuringowa and then it'd come up and then you could check your how to vote card. But I think I've done it too many times and now it's like, no, you must donate or some shit. It's not playing at the moment. But it probably will work well for you. When I did check it before, and I checked the Mundingborough one, it was basically exactly what our KAP guy was putting out, which was, obviously himself first, One Nation second, Liberals third, Labor fourth, and Greens last where they should be. As I've always advocated, whether you go KAP or One Nation, that's purely up to you. I have given Michael Pugh the opportunity to come and have a yarn here on this network. He did say yes at one point, and then he turned around and said no, he didn't want to get into trouble. He was hoping he didn't make a mistake or something. I have my own theories. I'm going to keep my judgments there reserved. I'm not going to tell you to vote KLP or One Nation one way or the other, but at the end of the day, those two are the only options left. But Monica here, contacted me during the week and had a story to share. So I thought, I'd let her tell her story herself. So, g'day, Monica. How you going?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Very well,
Can you hear
thank
me?
you. Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. Obviously, you can hear me.
Perfect. Yes, I can. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So, in the interest of full disclosure, you and I have known each other for, a few years now through various, little meditation circles and whatnot we go through, and we've crossed paths on a few occasions. You do some amazing work with sound bowls,
Yes.
But you've recently been helping out the local KAP fella, Michael Pugh, and you had some concerning stories. Would you like to start at the beginning and walk us through it?
Well, look, I mean, I met Michael in March this year. I guess didn't know him or his story very well at that point in time, so I shouldn't say full-heartedly, but wanted to, I guess, with KAP and what they run for and who they are, what they stand for. I guess I made a conscious decision that I wanted to support him. So coming into the election, at one point he did ask me to help him, and I guess I made that decision that if I'm going to back someone and genuinely back someone, because that's who I am. And I guess part of everything, even in spirituality, you support people who you want to see succeed, right? That's what you do. So I met him. We'd had obviously a few conversations, parted ways, and then came back together about 6 weeks ago. He went, "Hey mate, you want to come help me, with my campaign?" And I, went, "Well, yeah, cool, not a problem. In between work and everything, I'm happy to help." So that's what I did. I finished work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was helping him until nighttime, pretty much every day of the week. When he messaged me and said, "Hey, Mon, can you come and help me?" I did. I guess the thing is that when I started seeing the true person that he was when I shouldn't say that he just I guess, lost interest in me or lost interest in whatever was happening, I worked out that he had started lying to me about some things that were going on. So I then kind of
Can I
went,
just
oh, okay, and I
sort of
banked it and went,
stop
yep.
you there just for a second? You kind of led into the idea that there was maybe a relationship or something happening there, maybe? Am I judging that
So
correctly?
yeah, so Michael,
He lost interest in you,
yeah,
or
Michael had met. What? Sorry.
you said that he'd lost interest in you, so it just made me think that, maybe there was something more happening there.
I mean, kind of. It was more of a. I shouldn't say. When I was hanging out with him, it was. Hey, come help me. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do that. All of
You're
this
just a
stuff.
friend.
And I guess with who he is, I mean, now I can say with who he is. I'm not saying that he was particularly interested in me, but I think it was just that moment where things. I guess he just went, "I'm going to use you for what I need to use you for," and that's pretty much where it ended. And that's when, as I said, he started lying to me. He gaslit me at one point. So I went out with him one morning, and went and asked him, "Hey, mate, what are you on for the weekend?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And I went, "Oh, yeah, cool." Anyway, Monday morning rocked around. We were having a conversation with another person, and I mentioned, "Hey, you'd gone and done this," and he went, "Oh, no, 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 I didn't do that at all." And I'm like, "Okay, but I saw you out, and I knew exactly where you were because I was out in the same vicinity of him." And it just kind of made me go, "Are you actually gaslighting me? Are you wanting to change the narrative because you don't want to be honest with me about?" Anyway, it was just one of those situations where I went, "Oh, that's really, concerning when someone wants to say one narrative to me, but a completely other narrative in front of another person." So I kind of went, I should have said something, and I didn't. Anyway, as it went on, I found out that he had, I guess, chosen to have a relationship with a young lady who was 24 years old, and he's still in that relationship now with her, which doesn't bother me. But my situation around that is that I guess that had all happened, and then one afternoon he looked at me and he said, "Look, Monica, just in a couple of weeks you'll never have to deal with me again." And I kind of went, "Oh, does that mean you're using me? Like, I've spent every waking minute supporting you, backing you, getting out of bed at 6:30 in the morning, helping you, and then you're saying to me, well, guess what? Once this election's over, I'm having nothing to do with you." And I confronted him. I said, "Hey, mate, this is not okay as a friendship. I've got boundaries, and one of my boundaries is not being used." And his response to me was, "I was joking." And I kind of
Okay.
went, "That's not something you joke about." So that kind of behavior really didn't wash with me. And then, unfortunately, there was a personal situation that happened for me about 3 days later after that, where my best friend had attempted suicide, and she was in hospital. So for that day, I was absolutely beside myself and in pieces. I still am dealing with that situation in different forms, but that's still happening. And at the time when I mentioned to him that, "Hey, this is happening. My friend is in hospital. I'm not okay." Um, he called me 3 times that day, did ask me how I was, which was nice. But at the opposite end of it, he basically said, "Oh, look, I understand your friend's in hospital, but you're going to help me with my campaign, right?" And I'm like, "Michael, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what's happening for me. I don't know whether I have to fly out to Brisbane because my friend is in hospital." And he's like, "Oh, well, I've spoken to my campaign manager and she wants to know whether we can lock you in, blah, blah, blah." And I'm sitting there going, I'm thinking of my friend. I'm thinking of my own thing. And he's pushing me to help him with his campaign. And that's when I unequivocally went, "Look, no, I can't be there for you. I can't help you. And you've really, in the last few weeks, by lying to me, gaslighting me, telling me, when my friend, and basically saying, 'Hey, I'm using you, and then turned around and went, oh, you know, your friend and what your situation isn't important to me. My campaign is more important to me than, you know, than anything else. And that's when I just went, no, I'm out. I can't do this.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to clarify because a few people have asked this question: who Michael is? Michael here is the Michael Pugh, who's running for the seat of Mundingborough here in Townsville, and he's representing the Katters Australia Party. For those who weren't aware of that, sorry, perhaps I didn't make that clear at the beginning. Sorry about that. So
yeah,
yes,
sorry, I do apologize. I probably should have said, hey, this is my I guess my relationship and how that came about with Michael Pugh, which is the KAP candidate for Mundingborough. And I guess I'm not alone in how I've experienced this, and the more that I talk to people, the more that I hear different stories about who he is as a person. And it's not necessarily the drama that I'm entering into, it's just my experience of a person who's standing there in Parliament saying, I'm a family man, I'm going to support you, you know, all of these different things, when, you know, my experience is that he's going to tell you what you think you need to hear, which is what he did for me, and then dismiss anything around it and do, I guess, obviously whatever he wants to do, which is a standard, I shouldn't say a standard politician, but it scares me in where he's standing up and where his values are and what he's trying to say that he's representing and how he's representing himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to play devil's advocate in the scenario here, centered around your friend. Are your friends doing okay now? Like, let's start there. Like, you
Well,
said
I guess
hospital,
suicide is a very hot topic, and a lot of people, and I don't want to trigger people who have been experienced by this, but you know, no, we're still going day by day, and it's very, very difficult for me, because even today wasn't a good day. So, you know, we're still talking about potentially going back to hospital and making better choices. But she attempted suicide 3 times and had 4 hospital admissions in the last 3 weeks. So, inadvertently, 24 hours after the first attempt, she attempted a second time. So, and I was the one who had to call an ambulance, and I was the one who had to, you know, support that part of it. And I'm here in Townsville, which is where I guess everything falls down. And that's, you know, I've known this person for 20 years, and she's one of my people, kind of like you with your wife or whatever. And, you know, the thing, I guess, that hurt me the most was the unequivocal misunderstanding and not caring about the fact that I have this relationship. And he could have just said, okay, mate, you know, we'll talk in a couple of days, we'll see where she's at. And, you know, and if you're able to help, then, you know, you can come along and help. But it was kind of really pressuring me into, you know, being there and supporting him with his campaign, and just, you know, and it was really difficult for me at that time. And it just was the last straw for me, you know, in all of those nuances that had occurred over a number of weeks. And I'm not discounting the fact that he, you know, he could be a very good person, but from the experiences that I have, from the conversations that I have, I don't know anyone who's really got anything nice to say to him or about him, really, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I don't know him too well myself. You know, I've met him a couple of times. You know, obviously anybody selling themselves is going to sell themselves as best they can. He's certainly run a very effective campaign here throughout Mundingborough. I think out of or most of the houses around town, I get around town obviously a bit as a delivery driver. He's got the most posters out on fences, so you know he's definitely kicking goals with, you know, and for you know, the Liberal Party to be throwing this in my mailbox, it's they're obviously been very effective, and the major parties are concerned.
The key is that people are sick of the major parties. LNP is you know, one element, and then you've got the ALP, and then you've got other things that are happening. And if you're anything like me, you're not interested in voting for the major parties, because you don't see a difference in any of it. Like, you don't see a change. You've got our current illustrious leader who spent $100 million on a road to his $4.3 million house and is telling us to suck it up and for our taxes to pay for his, his stuff. And,
And
if I was on
and
Centrelink,
he
I'm accountable for
understands
every
because he grew
inch
up
of my
poor.
money.
Our
I don't
prime
care.
minister understands. He grew up poor. Of course he understands. Like he said, $100 million
He,
of our
he
taxpayer
understands
money
his,
for a
his
road to his $4.3 million home. He clearly understands.
but he understands his $500 lunches and the fact that he's going to get a golden handshake for the rest of his life. And the biggest issue that I've faced in all of this is that with mental health and the healthcare system, it's broken. And every time I ended up ringing the hospital and having a conversation with with one of the mental health people there, and every time she got discharged, he's like, "Oh, she's of sound mind." And I went, "How? She just literally tried to kill herself less than 12 hours ago. How is she of sound mind?" And as far as they're concerned, even if she says, "I'm going to leave here and I'm going to kill myself," as long as she sounds as though she's unequivocally okay, they will go, "If that's what you want to do and that's your choice, by all means leave here and go." And it's really hard for me to go, how can you allow that? But our system in how they approach it is people are overworked, people are underpaid, you've got a lot of people in and out of hospital. The system is, due to the vaccine and many other nuances, is broken. And the healthcare system, for whether it be suicide or mental health, is also another conversation that we can have at a later date, because it just baffles me how they can say, okay, this is what's going on, but there's no money to pour into it. It's the same as where they say, with Centrelink and stuff like that, we've got hundreds of millions of dollars being given to welfare, but they also neglect to tell us that the welfare debt is also all of the politicians that are getting their handouts at the opposite end of all of this. So, no one in politics is unscathed. And that's why, for me, I was very pro KAP, because I feel that a lot of what they say, except for their policy for sending the kids out bush, because I used to be a social worker, and we need to come together as a community to work this out as a community. You can't just pick people up and drop them into the middle of nowhere and say, "Oh, hang on, this is our best solution, is just to make them disappear." And that's not okay either.
Well, I don't know. Perhaps I'm wrong, and I'd love. I have offered this link out to a few people from the Carter Party. If you guys are watching, by all means, chime in and throw your two bobs in here. But I was under the impression to send them out bush was to send them out with Indigenous elders and sort of get a lay of the land and get back in touch with their culture. When and I know Troy Thompson's really not popular at the moment, but when he was running for the seat of Thuringowa himself, I met with Malcolm Roberts, and there was a couple of Indigenous elders and various other people in the community had a lot of concerns, particularly relating around the Labor Party and the Gestapo-style methods they use to prevent people from actually helping people. The Indigenous elders were like, we want to take our people, our youth, who are committing these crimes, take them out on country, teach them their culture, teach them our ways, get them to respect people, their elders, the land, and get them back into culture, sort of thing. But the Labor Party only wanted to give them 3 days, and they're like, we can't do shit with 3 days. We need to take these people for months and really get them to engage. But their other strategy that they were offering was not just to work with the children, but while those kids are out bush, working with the elders, they sit down with the parents and go, right, what's going wrong here? Why are you guys drinking and taking drugs, or what, and just as an example, I'm not saying they are, but what's going wrong with the family unit here? How do we help the parents? So when the kids come back, the parents are sort of on a better work, and then continue to work along with them. That was what was being put forth by certain Indigenous elders, and that, I think that's a wonderful project, and it shouldn't just be exclusively for Indigenous kids, or it should be for any young offender. I think it'd be a great thing to do.
Yeah, and that would be, and I believe that some of the and a lot of the programs that are being brought forward, I guess the nuance in some of this stuff is that when I've actually met with Bob at some of the luncheons, he's talking about sticking them literally in the middle of nowhere, right, just on the border of the Northern Territory, not necessarily in a, whether it be working with cattle or working with something. He's just literally talking about picking them up. There's no actual, understanding around what they're going to do with these children and what this is actually going to look like. And for me, that's a really scary thing. And the other thing that I did say to someone else one day is that, think about it, our government created the shitstorm that we're sitting in. They 10 years ago gave, and I'm definitely old enough to remember this, they gave people $5,000 to have babies. And they didn't care
Yeah.
who was having those babies. They just gave this baby bonus. And then now we've got an influx of all of these babies that were born, and no one actually went, oh, hang on a second. Some of these kids are going to be born into houses where there is sexual assault, where there is drug use, where there is, um,
Mm.
alcohol, where there is all of these, domestic violence and all of these other things that all, come into play. And these kids don't feel safe at home. And where do they feel safe? They feel safe with other people, with people that they feel is part of a community. And that's why they're building these communities. And that's why all of this crime and stuff is happening, because they're finding these 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old kids that are going, here it is, I'll help you, I'll make you do whatever. And then they think stealing cars is a game, and it becomes that revolving door for them. But the other side to it that I'm aware of, because I've had friends who work in the justice system, is that they're safer in jail. So they get 7 meals a day, they
Mm.
get a TV, they get a bed, they get
Yep.
PlayStation, they get to watch movies every night, and they are unequivocally safe. And that's where
Yeah.
you've got to kind of see the nuances around all of these different things and going, well, hang on a second, why are these kids safer in jail than what they are in our community? And how can we come together as a community? And none of these people, not even KAP, are looking at this as a community solution. They're looking at the problem going, well, hang on a second, this is a big problem. Let's just pick them up, take them somewhere else, get them out of our community, get them out of, whatever's happening, and not necessarily, that may or may not be a positive thing for these people that are dealing with all of these things. And if you do a top-down approach, which is potentially what may happen, and I don't know, I mean, I'm not in politics, I can't say what's going to happen, but 95% of whatever goes on is always a top-down approach. And it scares me to think that Katter Party may be one of those parties that turns around and says, oh, well, we're just going to build another jail out in the middle of nowhere on the border of the Northern Territory, and we're just going to stick these kids there and hope for the best, basically. And
Yeah.
that's not changing the community. It's not changing how the community is acting, reacting, supporting, and doing any of those things. It's literally just picking a problem up and putting them somewhere else.
Yeah, and there's also the castle law element that they want to bring in as well, which, yeah, to a degree, people should have the right to defend themselves, and as we kind of currently stand in our current legal system, so somebody breaks into your house, trips over and hurts themselves, they can sue you. Which is a pretty fucked up sort of a system, whereas it should be a case, if they broke into your house and you didn't beat 9 colors of shit out of them, you should be asking, why didn't you? As far as I'm concerned, I mean, at what point, people are allowed to defend themselves, and obviously, just cause, sorry, not just cause. I mean, what's the term I'm looking for here, where
I guess the thing
equal
that kind of
force.
comes along with it is, if you think about how they did you're entitled to smack your child. You can smack your child once, like it's lawful to smack your kid. And everyone goes, oh, is it really? And you go, well, yeah, as long as it's within reasonable force. Now, what is reasonable force? Because
That's the
for
word.
me,
Thank you.
reasonable force is a point of, well, if I get up and the child, say 2 years old, and I just tap them lightly on the bottom, is that classified as reasonable force? Or is it hard enough that you're literally holding your hand up, at the opposite side and then hitting them, and so you can actually see the hand mark on their bottom? And I guess it really depends on the person on the opposite side as to whether that's reasonable force or not. So if someone breaks into my house and they've got a bat in their hand, you would have the expectation that I would be able to do the exact same back to them. However, there was and has been articles around where people have broken in, they've been high on ice, and the person has, been put in a headlock or something's happened, and then unequivocally that person has died. And then there's the great debate of, is that manslaughter? Because you have at your own hands killed someone who has entered your property, even though they've come there to damage or to steal or to, hurt your family. Does that still mean that you are liable because that person had potentially died at your hands because you put him in a headlock, he was unable to breathe, he's then passed out, and he is then, unfortunately, due to the amount of drugs or whatever has gone on, he's then died. And that's where the great debate all comes in with this Kata Party thing of, what is reasonable force, and how do you then say, okay, that person did something within reasonable force, and unfortunately that person died because of that, or something else happened.
I mean, I'm kind of the school of thought, well, if somebody's gone on, taking a shit ton of drugs and, become a threat to my family, and they happen to die as a result of me attempting to restrain them, I think I should be given a medal. If there's a bloody pulp that's almost unidentifiable after this, then I guess we're talking about a different thing. Obviously, maybe I got a bit carried away, but just tried to restrain them, and it was an accident. Look, at the end of the day, if they weren't in my fucking house, it wouldn't have happened. Is the first thing I'd be saying. If they weren't there doing the wrong thing, it wouldn't happen in the first place. I'm defending it's self-defense as far as I'm concerned.
But then I guess you've got that other thing that goes on going, well, okay, you may have beat that person to a pulp, but then you've got people who where you have the police going, well, you took matters into your own hands. And that's the other side to this castle law, is that you're taking matters into your own hands.
So, it was 3 hours before they finally turned up.
Yeah, but you can also sit on them, barricade there. Like, I don't know what you can do. Like, I unfortunately have not been a victim of crime, so I don't know what I would do if someone did get into my house. I mean, I have a pretty unequivocally barky dog that alerts me to a whisper of anything. Like, someone even walks past my house and I definitely know that they're there, and the Aboriginal people within the community around me know that I have dogs. So I'm not saying that I don't get touched or I won't ever experience it, but then you look at it going, well, what is within reasonable force, and are you taking the law into your own hands? And did this person, and that's where everything starts getting a bit sticky, because what you see as a male as reasonable force, you could probably hurt me a hell of a lot more than I could hurt you. So, where do you draw the line in the sand around some of that stuff as well?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, if the perpetrator's coming in with a knife, that's a deadly weapon. So deadly force is reasonable. That's the way I perceive this, and that's someone who's trained in martial arts. I know damn well that a knife is a very quick weapon and a very quick way to kill. And, particularly in the hands of somebody who has a good knowledge of anatomy. So
I guess for me, I'm always going
I'm not going to fuck around.
I guess for me, I always come back to community, and people within a community can grow as a community, can come together as a community. There's 26.1 million people in Australia, and even through the COVID vaccine stuff, no one could actually come together. And this is, I guess, when we start coming to elections, when we start making decisions about all of this stuff, we start, I guess, kind of coming together as a community, or as a whole, as a lot of different people. But even with some of the stuff that has always gone on, it's always been small pockets of people that have gone, oh well, this KAP is going to be able to do this, but are they actually going to be doing anything different? And the person that's running for Mundingborough, I don't feel with what I've experienced from him, the fact that he's unequivocally quite happy to have a 24-year-old girlfriend, someone who's 20 years younger than him, kind of shows me where his mentality is at and who he is as a person. Because it just kind of, everything shines through with his behavior of how I've experienced him. Whether someone else experiences a completely different person, I mean, you met him and you had a conversation with him, but when it comes to him running whatever's going on or wanting to make change, can he stand there unequivocally and say, I'm part of this community, I'm looking after this community, and I'm going to stand there and say, these are the things that I feel I can push, and we can be supported by that? And is he also going to listen to the community, and can our community come together and make these decisions of what we actually need? And a lot of the time, a lot of those answers, I would say no, because we don't get to have these big conversations around, how would things be different? What would you do if we could actually band together as a bigger, wider, thing? And every time we have these elections, it's always divide and conquer. LNP is going to do something different. ALP is going to do something different. There's always laws or nuances that change how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive our community around us. And then you and I, we have a difference in opinion on lots of different things, and this is where the division comes in, and this is what they want from us. So we can't actually come together and be a force of one, because we're all sitting here bickering going, well, I don't believe in castle law, I don't necessarily believe in sending the kids out bush, and you're saying to me, well, that might be the best thing for them, and that might be all of these different things, and this might actually change what is actually happening. And until we start coming together and saying, well, okay, we actually agree on some of these things, and we can actually go, okay, I want these things to happen, is when we're actually going to see the bigger changes. And unfortunately for me, I've lost all faith in ALP and the LNP and also Katter Party in understanding from all of this. And then all you've got left is really One Nation, which is, well, I have good and bad aspects about them as well. And then you've only really got the Greens. So we're kind of at the mercy of
Greens
all of
are
these
out.
different things.
I'm not even going to entertain the Greens. I'm sorry.
Oh, look, I
if
love them
they
where
had
they
it
go,
stuck,
let's take. Yeah,
if
go.
they stuck to what they were doing back in the early days, the 80s and the 90s, when, hey, let's look after the environment and really care about the environment, no worries. But right now, to me, I call them the pedophile party. So, when you're trying to normalize pedophilia as a sexual preference, you've completely lost me.
I unfortunately I haven't listened to the Greens in years. When they started taking cattle off property, and they started in Victoria, and they started allowing the grass to grow 6 foot tall, they were not, they were trying to get people to not do these things, and then you couldn't clean up your yards. And then all of a sudden we started having bushfires that were catastrophic and people started dying. That was when I kind of went, these people aren't looking after our environment. They're not looking after our community. It's really them going, oh, this is a great thing. Oh, well, taking a cattle off the land then helps the land, but then what are you doing for the 12-foot grass that grows when you take the cattle off there? So it does change, and then their policies just aren't, and I don't agree with them. So I haven't followed them in a million years, so you could tell me anything and I'd probably have to believe you, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, look, it's very kind of you to just take my word at gospel truth like that. Look, at the end of the day, I've brought it up, so let's have a look at their castle law solution. We'll be fair, and it's a pretty straightforward thing. I'm going to read along. I haven't read it before. The KAP's castle law is based on the legal principle that recognizes a person's right to defend their home against intruders without facing legal consequences. This isn't a new idea. Castle law roots can be found in English common law as far back as 1604. Castle law will provide clear legal protection for people defending themselves and their property from intruders. The changes will give legal protection when using force to repel intruders, creating peace of mind for people in a frightening, threatening situation. Under the current law, people must demonstrate they have only used necessary force under the reasonable belief that the intruder was entering their home to commit a serious crime. I mean, I don't understand how that's even a thing. Like, somebody's entered your house unlawfully while you're asleep at night. I don't think they're there to put a pillow mint down for you. The KAP knows that this is an unreasonable ask. People cannot always make split-second measured decisions in moments of crisis. And 3 o'clock in the morning, there's someone in my fucking house. you're going to react. I mean, I myself have to confess that, I have attacked people in my sleep because somebody grabbed me or moved me. I was asleep. I was startled. I didn't mean to do anything. It was just that was just a natural defense. Fuck off. Leave me alone. I'm sleeping. Expands the key changes with castle law, expands the definition of premises to include homes, vehicles, caravans, and other living spaces. I mean, I did recently hear a story of somebody who was asleep in their caravan when somebody jumped in and stole it while they were sleeping in it. So that must have been a pretty full-on experience. Allows occupants to act in an intruder enters at night. Allows occupants to act if an intruder enters at night, is or pretends to be armed, uses threats, damages or threatens to damage property, or is with one or more other people, reduces the risk when faced with the need to make split-second decisions under stress, supports people who believe their actions are necessary to prevent harm or stop a crime. I mean, it's pretty vague. It's not really outlining any specific legislation. So, obviously, it's a bit of a political rant in that sense that it's not very specific, and I'm definitely hearing your concerns in that concept that it's not specific, which is why I thought it's important to go to their website. But like I said earlier, somebody's got some sort of, even if it's a baseball bat, that's a deadly weapon. I mean, it's truth. The mind is a deadly weapon. Watch Rambo 2. He tells you all about it. And all the they're walking him through, in there. I think it was Thailand. It was set. We got all the most sophisticated stuff here, Rambo. You don't have to worry about anything. We've got the greatest weapons of the world. And he turns around and goes, "I've always thought the greatest weapon was the mind." So, at what point is someone armed and dangerous? And as my martial arts instructor, told me many years ago, the law doesn't give a shit whether you're a black belt or whether you walked into a martial arts class for one lesson. If you've done that one lesson, you are now considered a lethal weapon. So from that point of view, whether I've done one lesson or I've trained for a decade or so, the law looks at you in the same way. Isn't that an interesting prospect?
As I said, it still goes back to the, what's within reasonable force, what's considered as, as, I guess, are you then taking things into your own hands? And that's what the police, like, we have laws around taking things into your own hands. It's where that poor young lady, where the vigilantes got into a car, they went after those kids, and they actually, she was only 20 years old. They killed her straight on her bike in the middle of an intersection because they were chasing someone, because they felt within themselves that they were doing the right thing because police weren't around. And this is, I guess, the consequences to some of this castle law stuff, is that, are we going to have more of these innocent people that get killed in between all of this stuff, or or are we going to have, I guess, a little bit more of things choking up the courts because people are trying to go, well, for me, as you as a man, what you feel is reasonable force, you could potentially choke me out and hurt me, whereas my reasonable force wouldn't be able to do that to another human being. So it kind of, it kind of sets a cat amongst the pigeons as to what is this going to look like, and how is it going to be policed? And that then is then up to the laws of whatever they make a decision around that. And that then scares me as to, what is this really going to look like? And are we going to have a bigger problem at the opposite end of it? Because people are then going, oh, well, I feel I can do this. And then a kid comes in, they go, oh, well, the kid had a knife in their hand, but yet there was no knife to be seen. So you kind of then have all of these other things that are going to come up around all of those things. And none of it sounds really good to me. Like, the policy may sound good, but I don't think that how and what it might look like and how it's going to be policed is going to be a completely different kettle of fish.
What was that previous comment? Sorry, guys, can you bring that one back up? It was just before. Thanks. Yeah, Mark McDonald here. I would suggest castle law has always been an enforced law. It's just another buried, just like our human rights. We have that people believe we don't. It's in black and white in the Constitution. Like I would imagine, and I'm kind of using a bit of imagination here when it comes to how things used to work once upon a time. That whatever that generally people did defend themselves in whatever means necessary, and has always been. I think it's only really in certain elements within history where there's been civilized, or at least the alleged civilized society, where there's been police forces and other such measures where people are not suddenly in control of their own lives. And when I was working in Win News going back 7 bloody odd years ago, I think one of the most disturbing elements of is the law going to be there to protect me? I was confronted with when, I think it was somewhere in the small hours of the morning, perhaps somewhere in the witching hour, which is quite vague, somewhere between 12 and 3. A car being chased by a bunch of perps. I went to Thuringowa police station to get help. There was no one there. The perps come out, smash the shit out of the car while these people were in there. All the neighborhood is around, hearing all the noise and carrying on, watching over their fences from minimum safe distance. And a lot of the properties around there, I noticed, have huge fences and big locks on their gate. These people generally live somewhat in fear because of the crime in that area. But here it is out front of the Thuringowa police station. It was an hour before the cops turned up to their own police station to assist this. What measures do people have other than self-defense when you can't even go to the cop shop and get help? We've got a problem here, a serious fucking problem.
Well, the same things in Victoria. I mean, I used to live in a tiny town called Seymour, and we were one of the only police stations that they had. And in between Seymour and Wallen was 4 towns, and Wallen was only manned to a certain point, and the other one was Craigieburn. So Seymour literally at night looked after the Mitchell, Murrumbidgee Shire, which was something like 7 or 8 towns. So if they didn't have enough police officers on, you literally wouldn't see one. And there was no one anywhere. And even the small ones in the tiny towns, as soon as it hit 10 o'clock at night, they all went home to bed. And it was really up to another area to make sure that they were being covered. And look, no doubt we have police here in Townsville that are working around the clock, and they do some really amazing work. And I never ever knock the police for what they do. I do appreciate where they are. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the laws that they actually have around that, but they're there putting their body on the line every single day to keep us, as safe as we can be. And then you've got, I guess, Castle Law coming in, or some of these other things coming in, where it might tip the opposite way, where we already have no police, and we're going to have even less because we're going to be dealing with a bigger issue at the opposite side of it. Or maybe picking the kids up and putting them out bush might settle everything down, and we might get the community back, and we might be able to start doing more community minded things. Like, I don't know necessarily what all of these might look like. I don't have a crystal ball. Like, the concept of it might be good, but I just don't know how the execution is going to look like, and that's the scary part of it all.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I think we definitely probably need a multi-pronged solution, and I guess regardless whoever gets in, it's going to be up to us, the community, to really get in there and voice that, and perhaps help whoever it is out. And I mean, I've contemplated the idea of running, for a seat, several times, mostly because people suggest I should, not so much because I want to. And I always thought, well, it must be a pretty bloody big job, to have to deal with all those people, all these different varying points of view, and then have to play with, if you're in a party, all the party line politics, and, wow, what a shit show it must be. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get in there and give it a go, and I'll find out. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, I think I'll rather just poke a stick at other people. But I think I was talking to Senator Malcolm Roberts the other day, and as I said, well, what can people do? He turned and said, well, politics isn't a spectator sport. Get in there, get involved, and get that point of view. So, whoever gets in, perhaps you, me, and other members of the community, we can get a little bit more engaged and give those people a hand and share our thoughts and how we think it should work, rather than just kick back and hope for the best.
Well, I guess my reservation, if I do, obviously, I've got a reservation against Michael. I mean, I've met Janelle Paul. I find her to be lovely. She is a police officer. And I mean, even though I have only had small interactions with her, I believe she has, I shouldn't say more of a heart, but we have discussed the exact same things that I discussed with Michael, and I've got more of a reception and understanding around what that looks like, I guess, due to the fact that she is a police officer and she has been exposed to it. I guess my reservations around some of the stuff is that when everything all come to a pointy end with Michael, he didn't even understand why I was angry at him. So if you've got someone who's sitting there listening to all of the things that have happened, going, okay, you lied to me, dude, great. All right, I've pointed that out to you. You gaslit me, pointed that out to you. I've mentioned that you told me that you were using me, and you kind of laughed at me and went, okay. And then when I told you that my friend had tried to commit suicide, you were pressuring me into helping you. And then when I get really upset because I was really upset about it, and I said to him, these are all of the reasons why I'm upset with you. He turned around and went, I don't understand why you're angry with me. And that there, puts another layer on top of everything else, whether he choose whatever relationships he choose or whatever else goes on. If he can't, from all of that, and me even saying to him, hey, these are all the things that I'm pointing out to you that I'm not okay with, and he still doesn't understand, how is he going to stand there and listen to me or to you or to other people within this community and actually fully understand where we're at and why we might be feeling the way that we're feeling? And that's where, if you're going to be taking this into Parliament, you're going to be taking people's thoughts and feelings and understanding into that play around all of the other things. How is he going to be able to stand there and go, oh yeah, I get that. Just because he asked how I was doesn't necessarily mean that he actually gets all of those different things. And that for me is why I turned off and have now just gone, I don't want to have anything to do with the party or him. I did, and I still do quite like Ruben. I find him to be a very genuine person. I've hung out with Ruben. He is probably one of the nicest ones out of the whole KAP team. So if anyone does live in Tarrangara and they do want to back someone, look, I feel that Ruben has, a really big heart and he does want to do good, as opposed to some of the other team members. And my experience with Michael, I just don't feel that as a person you're going to be seen, heard or validated in what you're trying to bring across. Anyway, I'm going to go. I hope you have a wonderful night, Mark. Appreciate it.
No, that's all right. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your opinion. So you have a good one. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Monica had to say. Hey, look, that link is available for everybody if you want to jump in and share what's happening, particularly those of you in Queensland. Let's not just make it about Townsville today. Let's bring in some of the other regions around Queensland. I'm sure there's a lot of Queenslanders out there who might have their two bobs. What encounters have you had with your local people? Personally, as far as I can see, it's a 3-horse race. It's been Liberal, Labor, Katter Party. Monica obviously didn't have a very good personal experience with Michael. I can't say that I've had a great deal of communication with him. I was really hoping that he would come along for an interview, but he said he would, then he said he wouldn't. So, that was a bit disappointing. But look, like I said, at the end of the day, Liberal, Labor or Katter Party, our One Nation guy, I don't know who he is. He turned up at the last minute. I haven't had a chance to get to know him. How do you call these things? What do you guys think? I have seen a few comments. Have you guys there's been a couple of stars. All right. So Batty's, what's the site name again? So that is, I'm assuming, I'm going to assume we are talking about this one, which is Turning Point Oz. You'll probably notice it's exactly the same as Turning Point US, which is very interesting. I want to look more into this. I've heard a little bit about it. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't really know exactly what's going on. It just looked like a pretty simple, straightforward way for those who are perhaps, not sure which way to vote. It's authorized by Joel Jamal for Jamal, I think is how you say that, for Turning Point Australia. He's running set up in New South Wales. Clearly spent a bit of time going through the candidates. I'll try it again, but yeah, the site's just not playing well for us. Might shut that down. See if I load it up. So yeah, Turning Point Australia, if that's what it is you're talking about. Sorry. See if I can get it to respond here. No, it's just it's not playing at the moment for some reason. I'm not sure why. I wonder if I drop it into a different browser if it'll play. I definitely want their donations, which is very nice of them and all, but it's frustrating. I was hoping to show you guys how it worked, but basically you just go through, you click on your thing, and it did before. Victoria, no, perfect sips. So anyway, there's oh yeah. That's the question I asked for earlier. Thank you. So hi Batty, T to Q to Q. I made myself, and it means Trump 2020, but I used Q's instead of O's. Q as in Q and Anons. Sorry for the tongue twister faction. Nah, it's all good, man. I was just making light of the fact that I was struggling with it, but. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling it had that whole Q and the Anons, and I like the way you separated Q and Anons because it's not QAnon as in one construct. So, you obviously know your shit. I don't know. Do you really have much faith in the whole Q thing? Like, I mean, to me, I can't help but feel it's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, give us a bit of input. If my comment watchers there could star that comment too when he comes back, please. Batty, could I ask who Monica is? Look, Monica is a lovely lady who is a local here in Townsville. I met her originally at the Inner Light Meditation Center where she did some lovely sound bowl meditation stuff. I tell you what, when you get a big gong smacked over your head while you're meditating, there's something about it. Yeah, if you ever get an opportunity to do like a sound bowl meditation, highly recommend it. Monica's very good at it too. Maybe we can do another podcast with Monica in the future, and she can have a yarn about it. And you know what? I'm a really bad person. I did some filming of some of the work she did at one point, and I promised her a long time ago that I was going to get that sorted out for her, and I haven't. So I will, and we will do it as a podcast. And you can learn a little bit more about Monica and what she does at that point there. So, yeah, sorry, Monica's obviously moved on now, but hopefully she's watching this now or in the background or something. And yeah, big apologies. Sorry, Monica. We will get that sorted at some point. Yeah. To have Jason Miles on. I did speak to Jason Miles 3-4 years ago, back in the very early days when he was running himself, actually. So if you go into the deep dark archives of the North Queensland Freedom Network, sorry, you won't find it on Cafe Lockout because I wasn't with Cafe Lockout at that particular time. I believe he was running with the Great Australia Party, if memory serves me correctly at that point. Yeah, great bloke. Good dude. Obviously, friends of friends of, the circles that I walk in, being the Great Australia Party and, Know Your Rights group and all that sort of stuff, a lot of good freedom fighting people. Yeah, love. Yeah, Jason Miles is a great dude. I actually would like to catch up with him again. I haven't had a chance to talk to him and Sips. I did see a sip there at the end of that sentence. But look, I did have some other things I wanted to sort of bring into the mix at this point. Sips honey. Are you like saying sips honey as in, as a term of infection, or are you sipping honey? That's an interesting concept. Yeah, like honey is like quite thick. It'd be interesting to try and sip honey, but perhaps dab. I don't know. Anyway, so obviously, with the exception of One Nation's cartoon, and yep, it's all right. I know they'll thank me one day for the idea. There's been a few things kicking around. Obviously, this ridiculously amusing thing. I normally don't pick on the Liberal Party, but I'll tell you what, guys, you're really outdone yourself. You deserve to be picked on for that one. Let's actually have a look at some of the fumbling buffoonery of our two. There was something I was explaining the other day to people is, you notice how we don't actually get to pick the premier or the prime minister. It just comes down to how many seats, the party gets. Isn't that a bit fucked? Honestly, I feel like we should be able to pick who that the premier is going to be, regardless of how many seats are fucking, allocated. Because the last thing I want is this friggin' clown.
I've endeavoured to be honest and open and answer all of your questions.
I am not reading this.
David Crisafulli, in contrast, has been evasive.
And I'm not making
dodgy.
It really fucking
He hid
obvious.
his $7 billion worth of job cuts until the very last minute. Cuts to nurses and doctors and teachers. And what Queenslanders need to ask themselves overnight as they think about who they'll vote for tomorrow, you need to ask yourself, are you sure? Because if you have any doubt at all, if you're not sure which jobs he will cut, if you're not sure what he will do to the cost of living, if you are not sure what impact his job cuts will have across the Queensland economy, then don't vote for him. Vote Labor for our positive plan for our state's future.
And what did he tell us? Nothing. He told us nothing. Just for our positive plan. Oh, thanks, mate. Well, if I'm not sure about any of the shit that you're going to do, I guess we have to apply the same method, which leads us into anyone but Liberal and Labor, I guess. But well, I mean, let's face it. When he's not trying to show, oh, look at me, and you see that fucking buffoonery there where he could barely string a sentence together. But instead of out there supporting candidates, this is what I've seen on his post on his that was 3 hours ago when I started that podcast. So we're looking probably about 5 hours ago now. Apparently, when in Rome. You don't know what fucking country you're in. He's out there jet skiing, living life up while he can, I guess, because he'll be in the unemployment queue perhaps very soon. Wow. The guy's a complete bloody idiot. And as you could tell, and I'm talking, and I've got to check my words, and I'm going to check my words. Like, it was like a primary school speech. It was horrific. Sorry, Anna. I know it was horrible, but I think it's really important and we see what a complete toss bag he is. But what I found really fascinating about that is, if you're not sure, that was the bloody campaign for the no. If you don't know, vote no. He just stole the vote no campaign for himself. They are that desperate at this particular point to try and get anybody to vote for him because they are that far up the duff. They are gone. No way in hell they can win. Something else I noticed when I was cruising through social media today, Julie Hall, who I've done a cartoon for previously too, lovely lady. She was also the the mayor of Whitsunday for a little while there. She ran for One Nation in Whitsundays 4 years ago. Again, you go back through my archives, you can see an interview I did with her back in the day. I think she's doing well. And if you noticed during that cartoon, she actually featured in that latest cartoon as well. But what I found interesting here is stolen. I've lost count of how many of my signs have been stolen this election. We put them up, they go missing. For those who have collected for souvenir purposes, I am happy to sign them. So I love the fact that she's got a wonderful sense of humor, pointing out the fact that people are going out of their way to steal the signs. Like they are that desperate to stop one nation. The same thing happened to the Katter Party. I was talking to Michael, earlier in the week, and he was saying that heaps of his signs have been taken down, and his are the only ones that have been taken down, according to him. Those are the words he said. So, and it doesn't surprise me, because Liberal and the Labor Party are particularly Labor Party, are very, very dirty when it comes down to playing politics. And I mean, if this pathetic attempt at fucking humor isn't enough, take that down. This pathetic attempt at humor isn't enough, because I can't see it as anything other than humor. Look, but it has been speculated that, there is a bit of a connection with the Labor Party. And look, at the end of the day, when it comes to minor parties, well, Labor have been the majority party for, a decade or more here in Queensland. So in order to get your policies through, you got to cut deals. That's how it works, being a minor party. That's no major shock. If it had been the Liberal Party in power for the last 10 plus years, I'm pretty sure the Katter Party would have cut deals with them. So I'm playing devil's advocate, and I'd like to think that if the Katters get enough people behind them, they won't have to make so many bloody deals, would they? Might actually be able to start pulling some strings and bit of weight themselves. So look, there's only one way to give it a go, and I think the most important thing is that the Liberal and the Labor Party realise that they have lost the Australian people's voice. Support, sorry. But while we're given a bit of curry to Mr. Miles away from bloody reality, I'd also like to point out where's Albo? Where's little Alpoo Memesy? While Queensland's attempting to regain a seat here in Labor's attempting to regain some sort of a seat. Let's have a look, shall we? Where is he? Oh, he's in Samoa. Jet setting around again, not helping anybody. Although it's probably for the best. I mean, anywhere he goes, he's just going to make you look like a dickhead. I wouldn't mind. I can't say that I've seen one poster anywhere around Townsville where anybody said, vote for me, I'm with him. I thought it was pretty game that Les Walker, the fucking complete toss bag, actually had photos of himself next to Stephen Miles. The guy's been known as political kryptonite. He's a toss bag himself. I mean, let's face it. Where's that photo going? Oh, I must have knocked it off the list. I thought I had it there. But, he's... Let's face it, Miles is political kryptonite. This guy is beyond kryptonite. This guy is a supernova. So I guess the best thing he can do for Queensland, the elections, is to be in another country right now. It says a lot for him, doesn't it? Another little motivator I've seen, we'll give Katter a bit of a plug again. Why not? 132 Queensland newborns were left to die without a legal right to care between 2020 and 2022. And if we just drop that comment for a second, guys, you'll see questions on notice number 69, asked on the 14th of February 2024 by R. Katter to the Minister of Health. And it's amazing how often we have these questions on notice from our various politicians. I will get to finishing up that video with Senator Rennick, where he graced us with his presence earlier last week. Obviously, I've shown the interview, but the presentation he gave is also yet to be released. So it'll probably be a Sunday podcast, but he goes into a little bit more about how the political game is being played by those who they're attempting to hold to account, where they just waste time, and I'll take that on notice and drag it out, because they know there's only so many times I have to answer the question. If they just keep avoiding it, it goes away. I think it's definitely something else that's very wrong in our political system, where these people do need to be like, well, you're on notice, you must answer by this date. You know, there's no more fuck assing about. This shit's got to end. It's got to end. It is beyond a joke now. But there is another video I'll bring in here, because we've got to be fair. We've got to be fair. And we'll give Chris a little bit of Fully moment. Huh? Oh, there we go. Let's try that.
One day to go until Queenslanders can vote for change, until Queenslanders can vote for a fresh start. We've been working around the clock, and we are going to drive this right up to polling day, because this state needs a fresh start and it needs change. The choice at the next election is now very clear, and that is a choice between a majority LNP government that has a focus on those big four crises, or a minority Labor government propped up by the extreme Greens at one end of the state and the chaotic Katters at the other. My message to Queenslanders is, if you want a fresh start, you've got to vote for change, because the status quo will be more of the same, and Queenslanders deserve that fresh start for a magnificent state. One day to go.
So, again, he said 2/5 of fuck all. He's expressed his concerns that there might be a minority Labor government with Katter supporting. Look, I don't know. It has been said and speculated that Katters are supporting Labor behind the doors. The how to vote card that was here in Mundingborough had Liberal above Labor. I don't know what they're looking like in the other ones. I was hoping to go through it a little bit more here, but this, how to vote situation, it's just a little bit hard to sort of go through. I was hoping for a few more people. Like, I mean, come on. We got, quite a few hundred people watching right now. Over 500. If I check more precisely. Yeah, we're definitely well and truly over the 500s. Look, honestly, I don't have a lot of faith in Chris Foley. It is a lot of blah, blah, blah. I think it's disturbing that, and I think it's something that really needs to change here in the way politics is done here in Australia. This two-party preferred system, I don't like it. I mean, I think, why can't we choose Bob Katter, Pauline Hanson, Chris Foley, Stephen Miles? They should all put their hand up as who's going to be the premier, and you vote for the premier as one, and then you vote for your local state guy as another. To me, that seems like a proper democracy. Not, I just pick my local guy, and if enough local guys over a thing, they get to choose who the bloody premier is. Again, it's not really a democracy when somebody else is choosing who the leader of a party is, and it's all about how many party members. To me, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think the system has some serious issues, because, I might like the local Liberal person, or the, I couldn't imagine how, but I might, in a far off fairy tale land where unicorns fart rainbows that heal people from, cancers and things, pick a Labor Party member. But I don't want to vote for the specific leaders, because the leaders can be detrimental to the individuals. And again, I mean, the whole party system should be fucking eradicated, really. It should just be fucking, this is the person, they do a good job, done. Get rid of this party shit, But, and I've mulled it over in my head many a time over the years. How would you do that? So, I mean, even if you abolished, parties, no more Liberal, no more Labor, what's to stop them meeting behind closed doors in a more nefarious manner and just basically having a party that you never get to see? And that opens the question, well, even when there's parties that you can see, who's to say there isn't parties behind that you can't see, pulling the strings of the parties that you can see? There's a can of worms, Sips. Yes, Lisa. They never do say what they're doing realistically, as we pointed out with, in the Catter's Castle Law thing. It was rather vague. But again, I don't think we should be in a situation where they choose what's happening. I mean, how often have you heard a politician go, I don't have any policies other than to listen to you? Fuck. When has that ever happened? No, like, I don't know. Help me out here. Is it a case of the fact that the general public has become so used to being told, and I want to emphasize used to being told what to do, that they're just like, well, he says this and he says, I want him to tell me what to do this week. Yep, that one. Yep, that one's good. He can tell me what to do because I don't want to think for myself. Is that what we've been reduced to? It's ridiculous. And again, as Senator Rennick pointed out, this is not a fucking spectator sport. You can't just jump on a podcast making some bloody comments. I can't just be in a podcast having a whine anymore. Obviously, I'm going to have to step it up a little bit further as time comes on. Need to get a lot more engaged, a lot more involved. Me, you, everyone, because that's where change is going to come from. What, going from Liberal to Labor backwards and forwards? Get fucked. That's not change. That's just the same shit going backwards and forwards. That's fucking insanity. That's not change. Like I said, toilet tennis, Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor. This seat stinks. Guess I better flush it. Oh, hang on. Had a couple of meals. Look out, that turd's back again. Time to play toilet tennis again. Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor. Flush. Start again. Like that's truth. I figured that out when I was 16 years old. 16 years, I wasn't even old enough to vote, and I figured out that this was the game of toilet tennis back then. Have we all caught up yet? Are we all ready to start doing something different? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say. I need all you mob on board. We need everybody to start getting involved here. Start really, finding your place, finding what you're good at, find your group somewhere, it was an interesting concept actually put to me, just getting involved in the board of the political party that you're interested in, even one that you're not interested in, and sussing out what's going on behind the scenes, like the idea that Senator Rennick can be voted out of the Liberal Party, even though he was voted in under the Liberal Party, like there's a fucked up concept, like I said, again, the fucked up concept that there's a group of people within the Liberal Party that vote for who's going to be the Premier or the Prime Minister. Like, huh? So, I mean, there's obviously tiers of voting, but you've got to get involved, I guess. So, I mean, I've still got a lot to learn about the political field. I'm sure everybody does. The more we learn, the better we're going to get at this. And I think, particularly based on the horrific state of how politics is portrayed throughout the media and this kind of shit marketing, it's an insult to your intelligence. Because again, rather than the Liberal Party say, I'm not going to fucking, forcibly medicate you anymore, or we're not going to censor what you can and can't say on the internet. We're going to actually solve some real problems, and this is how they do it. No, they just say, don't risk voting for anyone but me. Fuck off. Fuck off, Liberal. Fuck off, Labor. Fuck off all you parties. If the only thing you got to do is don't vote for them because they'll do this, what are you offering? Come on, for fuck's sake. Let's like seriously get something happening properly. Advertise yourself. Hang on, that's not what I wanted. Oh, I've got to bring it to the stage. Sorry. Excuse-moi. That was supposed to be all dramatic and well worded. It totally fucked it up, didn't I? Anyway, but while we're going into things, I noticed this one. There's a couple of articles. I kind of was going to do this on Sunday, but I think it's more relevant now. So according to the Courier Mail, of all fucking things, there's a Roy Morgan survey apparently reveals voters distrust all three major parties, although there's really four here. So only one of four. See, again, the deceptive nature. So according to them, there's only three you should be looking at. Which three? Because the fourth is So only one of the four political parties vying for office on October 26 are trusted more than they are distrusted. Roy Morgan polling shows. The most trusted party might surprise you. Well, I guess it depends on your perspective as to how much of a might there is. All three of the bigger parties are distrusted by voters much more than they are trusted, with only one nation scoring a net positive result, according to a new polling. So isn't it interesting the way they word that? All three of the bigger parties, as if one nation. Well, we have to acknowledge one nation did score a net positive, but we don't want to acknowledge them as one of the major parties because by three, they mean Liberal, Labor, Greens, So even in their admission of the truth, they have to manipulate the wording. And both Premier Stephen Miles, who nobody voted for, other than the Labor Party, of course, and LNP leader David Crisafulli, again, no one elected him, distrusted more than they are trusted. The pollster's latest quarterly risk monitor report has revealed. Roy Morgan CEO Michelle Levine said they had been analysing trust since 2018 as it was a strong indicator of voting intentions. Their latest research revealed the most common reason people intend to vote Labor was because they distrust LNP more. So, and again, that says a lot about the kind of marketing, isn't it? They're marketing themselves as don't trust someone else rather than giving you reasons to trust them. And after the last 4 years, how could you trust any of them? But not because they had a positive view of Labor. So it really is. It's fear. They're using fear constantly to motivate you, which is something, for all us Star Wars fans out there, is a path to the dark side. Voters who were intending to vote LNP said the main reason for that was because they distrusted Labor more. So it's not about I like them. I just hate this guy less. The lesser of two evils. That constant construct just continuously comes up my entire fucking life. Ever since I was a kid and start learning this shit, that's how I've perceived this. Queensland Labor's distrust levels dropped after Albanese federal government's election, but in recent months they have begun to worsen again. Almost 19% of people surveyed said they trusted Labor. Well, almost 19. They couldn't even make 19%, with the most common reason being they were better than the opposition. But a whooping 35.5% of the 1,800 people surveys distrusted Labor, giving it a negative 16.5% net rating. The LNP was slightly more trusted at 20%, but its distrust levels were a huge 32%. Giving it a negative 12% rating. It's an interesting way they put these figures together, isn't it? The Greens were trusted by a very small portion of people surveyed. Just 5% of people trust the Greens. I wonder why. One Nation was just ahead on a 6.1%. So about 18% of people trusted the Greens more than One Nation, giving the Greens a net trust of negative 13%. Negative 13%. So this is really fucking weird the way they've worded it. They've told you that Labor have come out best, but they don't, again, notice they don't show you graphs. Notice the way they've twisted and turned the numbers. One Nation ahead by 6.1. But what was their overall trust? They don't want to tell you. Isn't that interesting? I'm really not interested in doing the mental gymnastics right now. I might sit down and have a squiz at it a bit later to try and figure it out. But at the end of the day, One Nation were the most trusted party above Greens, Liberal, and Labor, according to that particular thing. But again, they noticed there was only 1,800 people surveyed. Where were they surveyed? How does it work? Look, I didn't get asked. Did you? Another interesting point to notice. Look, voting Labor is just always bad. Dan Andrews protesters forced mental health staff to work from home. This article is fucking pretty bad in the sense that it's just constantly trying to make out that the people who protested against Dan Andrews are horrible because they protested out front of a mental health building. Struth. Perhaps the people who are protesting have some mental health issues regarding fucking Dan Andrews would be my quickest way to look at this. I don't really want to get into this fucking article too much because when I read it, I was very disappointed at the Age for the manner in which they reported it. It's actually horrific and actually kind of in a roundabout way doesn't support Dan Andrews, but it focused more on the protesters and the fact that they protested out front of a mental health facility as being bad for doing that. The fact that this absolute cockknocker is being given a position that people have to protest out front of a mental health facility should be the key point. But obviously, they don't want to do that. Can't accept the fact that he's just a useless piece of human dog shit that should be scraped from the boot. Sorry, I meant to remove that from studio and get rid of all this clutter here. Now, before we do much more, actually, there is another video I wanted to show regarding the dangers of voting Labor, because I think that there is nothing more horrific. Let's just be reminded of the kind of weird pedosexual party they are by hitting the right button this time. That one.
How we do our makeup to meet the Queensland Premier. Very demure.
Very mindful.
Very considerate.
Very concerned. Fuck me. Actually, please, wrong words. Oh, no. Please don't. My God. I'm disgraced. I'm disturbed. Like, if that's a reason not to vote, that's got to be the ultimate reason to not vote for Labor, as far as I'm concerned. That's one of the weirdest things. Like, how you think that is helping your political campaign, I don't know. Got me completely lost on that one. Yeah, there are other videos. Very important one. Yeah, let's just do one more, and I think we'll wrap it up on that. Craig Kelly here released a wonderful video I watched earlier, and the statistics speak for themselves.
An example of how leftist policies destroy an economy and destroy a state. Just have a look and go through the data of what Dan Andrews has done to Victoria, and how Victoria, after a decade of Dan Andrews, has become an economic wasteland. Now, firstly, let's quickly have a look at this graph here. This shows the massive increase in the number of public servants that Dan Andrews employed as his time. Of course, all those public servants relying on government jobs.
Now, I'd like to point out that although this is focused on Dan Andrews being a complete toss bag, because, let's face it, who could argue that Dan Andrews is a complete toss bag? But every state here has some horrific numbers. Queensland, obviously. Tasmania is really bad when you look at the so the red is the population growth, and the blue is government employees, not employees in general and jobs created. This is government employees to population growth. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out how unsustainable this is for taxpayers. So WA isn't too bad. It's only a 7% increase. 10% in South Australia. 9% here in New South Wales. Tasmania, that's a huge jump. 15 to, let's say, 40 is 25, 24%. You know, that's massive. But here in Victoria, that's a big jump. That's a big jump. That's a 30% increase. You know, 30% over. Imagine the taxes you've got to pay. That's the point you really got to think about here.
Tend to vote for the government of the day, which is a Labor government. So a great way to win elections, but disastrous long-term for the state. Now you can see here in this graph that while Victoria's population increased 29% between the years 2007, 2008, and 2022-23, from a 29% population increase, they had a 59% increase in the number of public servants. Completely unsustainable. And if you look at the actual cost of employing all these public servants, it's far worse. You can see here in this next graph, if you look at the size of the growth of the economy compared to the wages bill for public service, you can see here, again, every state is terrible figures, but Victoria is the worst of all the states. With a 43% increase in the size of the economy, they've had a massive 152% increase in the wage bill for public servants.
Now, I'd also like to point out, this is socialism. This is how socialism works and why it always fails, because it creates so many government jobs. You know, everyone ends up working for the government. Where's the taxes coming from? Makes no fucking sense. It doesn't work.
Far beyond any other state in the nation. Next, have a look at what that has done, or what Dan Andrews has done to the productivity of Victoria. You can see here in this graph that shows Labor productivity since the GFC, that Victoria has had the worst Labor productivity in the nation. Productivity growth has absolutely collapsed in Victoria. You can see it there in the red line, bottoming out far below the other states of New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia. Then the next graph here, this shows the multi-factor productivity growth since the GFC. Again, you can see Victoria, the worst performing state in the nation. Again, far below New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia. Productivity has simply collapsed in Victoria. And of course, all this spending on extra public servants to help yourself get re-elected, Labor and Dan Andrews down in Victoria have run up enormous increases in government debt. Now look at this graph you can see here. In 2019, total Victorian government debt was around $58 billion. But by the time we get out to 2024, we're up over $180 billion of gross Victorian debt, and that's forecast to head off in 2027 to over $240 billion in debt.
Now, I want to go back just a second there, just so we can see that. I mean, the forecast is just up. Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. WA is kind of flatlining. South Australia's got a little bit of an increase. You know, ACT and Tasmania got a little bit of an increase. But at the end of the day, there isn't any decline. They're forecasting more debt. That's fucking not good. This is shit business management at the very basics. You know, it actually leads me to something that Craig Kelly also responded to. It's one of the big conspiracy theory sort of things. And, you know, I'll bring it up later. But, you know, what's important to see here is that they forecast more debt, more debt, more debt. This is not the projection chart you want to be seeing. You know, don't risk it, they say. Risk this debt, you mean? Come on, man. Let's have a look at, like, how are you selling this shit? How can both the Liberal and the Labor Party basically be selling, yep, well, we're looking into our crystal ball here, but yeah, you're going to have to pay a fuckload more in taxes. Well done. Welcome to Australia. Thanks, guys.
That Victoria lowers the state far beyond any other state. And then we move on to the next graph that shows the damage that this has done, this increasing debt. This shows net and gross debt per capita by state. And it should be no surprise whatsoever. You can see here that per capita debt in Victoria stood at it's $28,000 per person currently, which is 40% more than the other states. So if you're a Victorian in Victoria, they owe in debt 40% more than any other states. And of course, this has a cost. You've got the servicing cost
right,
of
Aussie
the
trader.
debt. So the current interest bill on Victorian government's debt, thank you, Dan Andrews, is around $4 billion to $5 billion a year. That's the money that has to be paid.
Have a look at that. Interest forecast cost. Wow. If only that was like the profits in my bank account. But in fact, you got to turn that upside down to see what kind of profits we, the people, are going to be making.
Paid in interest on the debt that doesn't go to schools or roads or hospitals. And that is set to balloon out to over $9 billion by 26-27, which is the interest payments that the Victorian government have to raise in taxes just to pay the interest on the debt, let alone anything else. And
raise the taxes.
Of course, of these interest bills and this debt and this wasteful government spending that Dan Andrews kicked off, you can see here now that Victorians are paying the highest average tax rates in the nation. You can see it here, well above New South Wales now. The highest tax rates in the nation belong, you got it, to Victoria, the poor old Victorian, struggling Victorians. Of course, all this big government has a massive effect on the entrepreneurial culture of a state. And you can see in this graph here that entrepreneurs in Victoria have simply almost given up starting new companies. This graph here shows the number of new company registrations per thousand existing companies. And again, you've got Victoria, the lowest in the Commonwealth. You can see well behind there, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, and Western Australia. Victoria, again, coming dead last. People, it's killed. Dan Andrews has killed the entrepreneurial drive and culture of that state. And also eventually...
So I want to address that. Have you ever seen a state go bankrupt? Well, have you seen the US debt clock? No. It's insurmountable debt. And this is the interesting factor, you know, and it's another one of those epiphanies I had. I think I was probably about 14 at this point, sitting there, probably about I think it was year 8, thereabouts, listening to, you know, basic understanding of how fundamental politics, economy, and all that sort of working in. I think it was a social studies class of some sort, you know, and I went off into one of my usual trances after listening to all this shit and just going, you know what? Society's just like a fucking mad-ass roller coaster. And everybody's, yeah, oh, well, this is great with its ups and its downs and, you know, and oh, shit, here it comes in the, whoa, you know, like, but the problem is nobody finished the roller coaster ride. Everybody's having this great time on this roller coaster, completely unaware of the fact that the track is not finished. Ahead of that track, there's a whole bunch of people desperately trying to fucking slap more pieces down and see if we can get this shit going and save the roller coaster ride and perhaps find the end again and bring it down to the point where we can get off the roller coaster. But it seems more and more likely that at the end of the day, the roller coaster is going to come flying off the track because you can't finish it. With that fundamental principle in mind, having a look at, say, the US debt clock and the information we're seeing here, it's like they don't give a fuck. The entire Western world does not give a shit where this debt's going. They're going nuts on it, as if they'll never have to repay it. Let that sink in. As if they'll never have to repay it. So what do they plan to make sure that they'll never have to repay it? Why would they not care? That's the big question. Let's continue.
Catches up with you. You can see in this graph here that unemployment is higher in Victoria than any other state in the nation. You can see here, you've got Victoria with an unemployment rate of 4.4%, substantially above every other state that we have in Australia. And of course, it's not just the highest unemployment rate. Victoria also has the lowest growth in wages.
I have to pull him up because it's just, I mean, you look at it when he's saying substantially higher. Well, South Australia is at 4.3%. That's not that much. Northern Territory, 4.2%. That's not that much. The national average is 4.1. Although I agree that Victoria's is higher, substantially higher is that's grasping. Substantially higher than the ACT? Yeah. Substantially higher than WA? Okay. New South Wales, we're starting to stretch it. But as far as South Australia, Tasmania, and the NT and Queensland go, it's not that much higher. I mean, sorry, Craig, I'm going to have to pull you up on that one.
Victoria with an unemployment rate of 4.4%, substantially above every other state that we have in Australia. And of course, it's not just the highest unemployment rate. Victoria also has the lowest growth in wages. And you can see that here in this graph that shows the annual wage growth for the second quarter 2024. That Victorian wage growth has been only 3.3%, below the national average of 4.1%, and below here in New South Wales, an average of 4.2% wage growth. So that simply means Victorians are going backwards faster than anyone else in the nation. And then have a look how Daniel Andrews has turned the Melbourne CBD into a ghost town. Have a look at this graph, which shows office vacancies in the major capital cities, the CBD. And you can see here, Melbourne is getting worse.
So that Victoria finally found themselves at the top of a graph. Well, actually, they did find themselves at the top of their, previous graph there at 4.4 over 4.3. But this is substantially higher. All right, big chunk. Well done, Victoria.
Now 20% of the office space in Melbourne CBD is vacant. Simply, who wants to start up a business in Victoria? We've got these high rates of taxes, high rates of debt, after years of Daniel Andrews running the government. And this all...
But let's just go back and have a look at that graph again. So this is only over a 1 year period, which is interesting. So I would like to actually see this graph going back before COVID 1984. Because, it's the third quarter 2023 to the third quarter 2024. And yeah, it shows it's continuously getting worse, which, is pretty bad given that things are allegedly going back to some kind of normal. But I would like to see what these kind of figures look like before COVID 1984. I might see if we can contact Mr. Kelly and see if we can get that.
In the major capital cities, the CBD. And you can see here, Melbourne is getting worse. It is
Yes,
now
you are,
20%
Victoria.
of the office space in Melbourne CBD is vacant. Simply, who wants to start up a business in Victoria? We've got these high rates of taxes, high rates of debt, after years of Daniel Andrews running the government. And this all has a social effect on the state as well. If we see these tragic figures on the fertility rate of Australia, it is Victoria, out of all the states, that has the lowest fertility rate, down to just 1.39. That's births for every woman in the state. At this rate, Victoria...
Now, although Victoria has the lowest birth rates, notice the birth rates are on a massive decline. And it's interesting, if we just hold those comments for a second, guys, just so we can get these bottom numbers here. They've got 2013, 2022, and 2023. So there's like a fucking 10-year gap there, you've got to kind of fill in the blanks in your own mind between the very pale blue and this sort of darker blue, because it looks like a steady decline as if this is year 1, 2, 3. No, that's like 10 years ago, then 1 year ago, or 2 years ago and 1 year ago. That's a huge decline in 22 and 23. versus 10 years ago. Massive chunk, you know. So if you filled in that gap between 2013 and 2022, you'd see a more gradual sort of a curve. If you can imagine, you can't see my cursor, I wish you could, but you know, you just flatten that out, you know. So instead of a peak like this, it'd be a little bit curver, and then all of a sudden, bang, you've got that hard peak, you know, during those COVID years. So the current economic pressure that people are suffering has caused a massive decline because people can't afford to have children. It also says a lot about the conscious decisions that people are making. People are making conscious decisions based on, you know, their economic abilities to you know, procreate. Or there could be another factor, perhaps some kind of medical intervention that perhaps happened over the last 4 years that is preventing people from having children. Could also, you know, what was it, the savage manner in which certain medical practices were pushed on people that have perhaps caused stillbirths and other reproductive issues might also be another factor. You know, but the fact that, you know, Victoria has the lowest birth rate in general, you know, even going back to 2013, does say a lot about the mentality of the people in Victoria. And given that it's a cold place, you generally want to snuggle up to someone and get warm. Just putting that out there.
Victoria is breeding itself
You can
out
throw
of
them on its
existence
backs.
with the lowest fertility rate in the nation. It just shows the despair that people have in Victoria with no confidence in the future. And as the economy collapses in Victoria, thanks to Dan Andrews, we see spiralling crime rates with crime out of control. We see crime increasing everywhere. Car thefts up 23%. Youth crime at a 10-year high. We see graffiti at a 10-year high as well. Retail theft through the roof. People in Victoria simply no longer feel safe. Crime is out of control. The economy is collapsing. It is an economic wasteland. Thanks to the policies of Daniel Andrews, the socialist economic policies of Daniel Andrews. But what should be frightening for all Australians is that our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is copying exactly the same policies of Daniel Andrews.
That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I titled this video today, Goodbye Labor. Because if you haven't figured it out now, I don't even want to think about what the next few years is going to look like with more of these socialist scumbags. And, you know, to those who may win in the next few days, if you are Katter Party or Liberal, like, I don't give a shit which fucking party you are. We're going to hold you to account. We're going to make your lives fucking living hell if you don't start doing the right bloody thing by the Australian people. Because it's up to every last one of us, not just me, not just a couple other podcasters. Everyone has got to get their shit together. So I really emphasize it this time, you know, for everybody who's going out there to vote tomorrow, really have a good, long, hard think about it. If you can't figure it out, I do recommend perhaps going to have a look at Turning Point Australia. I haven't had a look at all of it. I can't guarantee it. I can't say it's the best thing to do. But, you know, at first glance, it looks pretty good. The link is there in the description. I get it. We're all busy. We don't always understand things, you know. But for fuck's sake, don't put the bloody major parties anywhere near the top. Greens last, Labor second last, Liberal third last, and anything else above that's got to be better. And whoever else gets in, even if they don't know what they're doing, they're just hoping for the best, they just want some change, just fresh and green to the scene, they're going to need you, the people behind them, to help them out. So get straight in there from day dot. As soon as they get that fucking seat in there, lob up on their doorstep, introduce yourself. G'day, mate. Congratulations on your win. What can I do to help you? This is what I think this society needs. You know, they're going to need us. They need to know. If you don't tell them, they're not going to fucking help. Like, I mean, I know talking to Les Walker in my area was a waste of time. He ignored me. He's a fucking toss bag. And the more I got to know the people around town, the more I realized, wow, if only there was some people had the proof of all the horrible things he's done. He was a cunt. He's an absolute cunt. You know, I'm sorry for the language, but I can't think of a better way to describe him. He's a piece of human excrement. I can't wait to see sprayed off the bottom of our boots. You know, bye-bye, Les. Fuck right off. I noticed you didn't have anything to say to me the other day when I went up to pre-polling. You walked right away, didn't you? Yeah, you didn't have anything to hold over me. I wasn't working. You couldn't fucking manipulate the situation. You ran, you tucked your dick between your legs, showed us what a tranny you are. Fuck you, mate. Fuck you, and I hope you heard it. I was really hoping that piece of shit had something to say, but he was too much of a coward, obviously, that day to say something, because I would have given him a good serve. Now, one question for you, Les. How many of voters did you kill? How many of your voters died because you pushed a product that was not safe and it was not effective, and you ignored my letter I wrote to you and I asked you, prove it. You made the claim. You claimed it was safe and effective. You're a fucking coward and a liar. You never answered me. So fuck you, Les. Fuck you, Les Walker. I hope you rot. As far as I'm concerned, hanging's too good for people like you. Sips to that. So, sorry. My emotions got the better of me there, boys and girls. Comments. How do I get that stars thing up again? Where is it? Where's me starred comments? Well, that's not what. Somehow. Do I not have starred comments? Is that not what's coming up? No worries. Thanks, Daniel. Much appreciated, mate. Thank you, Karen. I hope you've all enjoyed this evening's presentation. It was a bit of a whether I was going to do anything or not. Excuse me. But I decided, you know what? One last thing has to be done. I did throw this out to a few different politicians around, and only Steve Clare had the balls to, drop himself in and say good day today. Yeah, as you can see, he was burned out, but he gave it a go. So much respect to Steve. If you're in the seat of Thurangara, I highly recommend giving him a vote. Let's see how things turn out. Let's hope that the major parties see a massive decline this time round. I really hope that is the case. I think we're pretty much assured that Labor is done for. Like they've had complete control and they've had complete chaos. It completely ruined everything. I was absolutely astounded that people voted Labor back in 4 years ago. Like it's like mystified me. Absolutely mystified me. But anyway. I did notice, Catherine, that you left a comment very early in and that you were going to send me an email. I'll look at that and we'll hopefully have a yarn a little bit Sunday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm still making it up as I go. I love the news of the week. Thanks, Lisa. I do have a few things. You got a little bit of it today, so it was kind of a little bit of a news of the week. Let's see what mystery guests can turn up. Palmer put over half a thousand people out of a job years ago. Yes, he did. Although that's a Jerry Phipps. I'd just like to talk a little bit about that. Actually. when I got here to Townsville, it was just in the aftermath of what Palmer had allegedly done. The media loved having a go at him, and what you got to remember about a lot of the mainstream media is that they're leftists, so they hate rich people, which is understandable because I mean, at the end of the day, there's so few of them, and the majority of us are not rich people, so it's very easy to not like them because, well, I'm not one of them. But yeah, when he closed the nickel refinery. But what? See, business is a little bit more complex than just, well, he closed the nickel refinery. I had the benefit of listening to an hour and a half presentation that was exclusively for the media. It was exclusively for the media because when he'd previously done it, there was a bit of protest and disruption from what I was told. I didn't see it. I only heard about it. It's just hearsay. But, he hired out a venue. All us media were there. It's something only us camera operators and the reporters got to see. You, the people, unfortunately, never got to see that presentation. Now, had I been doing the North Queensland Freedom Network back then, I would have live streamed the whole fucking thing and you would have got to see everything and hear everything that he said that day. Because it was in the hands of the mainstream media, all you got was fuck all. As I said, they usually give you a 1 minute story on these things. We were there for an hour and a half where he explained the entire economic situation. I was standing there. I think I felt like I was the only one that was actually really listening. Everyone else was looking at their watches, waiting for their opportunity to ask their feeble, small-minded leftist questions. By the end of it, I actually felt that I had a better understanding of what was going on if what he said was on the money. And I don't see why it wouldn't have been, because if it would have been, they might have picked at it. But then again, reporters are pretty daft, so there's a good chance they just didn't comprehend anything that was said. But fundamentally, it was pointed out that, well, the price of nickel had dropped. There's no fucking profit because of the way the market had moved. It's not so much Palmer has gone, fuck it, I hate everyone in Townsville, I'm going to close the nickel mine. It's a case of there's no money here. We're losing money. And as much as he's trying to save this hemorrhaging scenario, he basically he went into, what's the term? Going blank here. Liquidation. Sorry, went into liquidation. The liquidators moved in, and it's the liquidators that then fired and hired and done all that other shit. Now, there was the dodgy scenario where I think it's like his son-in-law or someone to that effect, hightailed the fuck out of the country and left. And Clive himself that day said, "Struth, I wish he was here so he could answer these questions." But when you're getting hounded by the media constantly, and an unfair media with a very feeble understanding of things, what's your motivation? I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get a chance to get Clive on the network, and perhaps he can explain the situation. He'll get his chance to tell the whole fucking story, and we can go through the situation. But at the end of the day, when a business folds, business folds. If it's not making money because the market shift has changed, that's not him. That's not anything he could do. I mean, I know it's a shitty way of looking at things, but when a business is losing money and it's hemorrhaging, what do you do? If you're the one running that business, are you going to keep it running? So it's just something to sort of think about when it comes to the way Clive's been portrayed. And, when I first turned up in Townsville that, 8 years ago, the lamestream media were fundamentally filled with kids straight out of fucking university that just got their little degree in media or whatever. Some of the people who were running the studios were like 2, maybe 3 years experience. That's who is running a newsroom. Like, you want to run a newsroom? Get a job here in regional Queensland. Get it in regional Australia anywhere. You can be running a newsroom within a year or two. It's amazing how quick you can become the head reporter in a regional area. You know, no life experience, no real reporting experience, straight out of university, because nobody else wants the fucking job. It pays shit. The hours are shit. You're always under the pump. Expectation. I mean, it's not unlike most jobs. And that's one of the things that I've come to realize with just about every job. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're a shit kicker in an office, a shit kicker in a factory, whether you're in the mainstream media. Or pick your place. Everything's fucked. It's all shit. Like, there's no glamour. You know, maybe there is for the trough feeders in politics. Maybe I have to get into politics just to give you an honest review of whether the situation's better there than it is anywhere else. But every job I've had, and I've had a lot of jobs in various different places, they're all shit, you know, and all of them have the same fucking problems. No money, no time, excessive expectations, so many rules and regulations, you're tripping over red tape everywhere you go. It's nuts. So, but to get back to the point, you know, Clive Palmer was being attacked by kids who knew nothing at best. And the handful that had a fundamental comprehension of basic economics, of very basic politics, who showed up the others quite substantially, you know, because, you know, they could add 2 and 2 and get it to add to 4. It was really astounding, you know. Those few, again, they had political hang-ups based on their leftist ideology pumped into them via university. So, you know, when it comes down to looking at the way Clive Palmer reacted here with the Queensland nickel mine, I say a lot of it is just media manipulation and bullshit, you know. Look, if there's somebody out there that was a part of the Queensland nickel mine, I've never actually spoken to somebody who worked there myself. I'd love to get your feedback. By all means, jump on, come on this network, explain it to me. The link's in the description right now, by the way. Anyone can jump on this podcast right here, right now. Give me your feedback. You know, I thought I would have had a few more people, you know, but anyway, look. Anybody out there who dealt with Clive Palmer in regards with that would be awesome to get Palmer on the show. Yeah, I hope to. I will reach out to him and see if we can get him on, or at least, you know, someone in some way, shape, or form. Look, and Jerry, if you know somebody who's been affected by the Palmer's decisions regarding the Queensland nickel mine, just shoot them the email. I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to get some real on the ground people having a yarn, because too many times in my and there's the email again. Too many times did I find in my time in the mainstream media, which inspires me to do this, did I find, excuse me, very good information and you know, real heartfelt stories carved to pieces, and mere shadows or slithers of them presented to the general public, while the meat is left on the floor. You know, it's like, seriously, it's like, oh, cool, I'm gonna carve a little piece of, you know, leather off this cow here and make a shoelace, and that's what you get from the news, you know, while the entire carcass is left to rot. That's how I would describe the mainstream media. It is not inadequate, doesn't even begin to describe my view of the mainstream media, having worked within it. It's disgraceful at best, you know, and it's only getting worse. So sips to that. Of course, anybody who's got some real stories and want to get their message out, this is the place to do it. Come on, I built it. Use it. Sure. Sorry, what was that question? Can you bring that back up? Here's your email address here on the video. It just was up then. I'll bring it up again. Here, it's right there right now. NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. It's also in the descriptions, and you'll find it also in the link tree, which is also in the description, which has a link to all the social medias. I may have to update. I'll have a look at that, please. All my wonderful people behind the scenes there, can you remind me to update the link tree tomorrow when we get around to it, because I ain't doing anything more past this today. Yeah. Any questions that you have, or particularly stories, like, come on, let's get the people's stories out there. Stop telling, too often do I come across people, they didn't tell this and they didn't tell that. Well, here's your opportunity. I've built the place for you to say it. I've built the place for you to speak. So do it. Come on. So let's go through some final comments and we'll wrap it up. Sips, that's a great place to start. Thank you. Yes, it is proton mail. Lol. It's like Roger Ramjet, with a proton pill. Cider, actually. Thank you. Homebrew pear cider. I actually quite like it, so it's not a bad job. Well said, Daniel. Thank you very much for your support, my friend. Yeah, it is a sad truth of the leftists that they just don't have. Yeah, homebrew cider, man. Homebrew. Look, at the end of the day, once it started getting to about $40 to $45 for a carton, I'm like, nah, I've got to start brewing. So, once I got to Queensland, and you don't have to worry about heat belts and heating and stuff, because the temperatures is really, really good up here for brewing at the best of times. I started brewing my own, brew my own beer, brew my own. Yeah, good on you, Jason. Dickens cider. Yeah. Yep, I hear the women love a Dickens cider. Me, I just like cider myself. This is Batty's cider. There you go. Lindsay, what do you mean by teach, us, Batty? I have a homebrew kit called Fred. Had it for 25 years. I won't let it go. Nice. You must really know your shit. You know what, Aussie trader? I'm gonna put this out to you, and feel free to decline. But if you would like to, perhaps present a bit of your 25 years worth of knowledge in homebrew, I'd love to do a homebrew podcast, mate. I reckon that'd be really good. I mean, I do things on a very straightforward, here's the tin, add a bit of this and add a bit of that, and wait back for a few weeks, and Bob's your uncle, because this is, logical world. Bob's not me auntie. I'd like to hear what you've learned in 25 years of brewing, mate. If you're keen for it, drop me a line, and at a date of your convenience, I'd love to gain some of your wisdom. Perhaps we all would. Fair enough, Adrian. That's why I went to homebrew, so I could afford to drink again. Yeah. Not so much teach, but just share. Yeah. I mean, those of us who have got a homebrew inclining already have a basic comprehension, I guess. If you want, you could do your own little podcast on homebrewing with 25 years worth of experience. I can imagine you could fill quite a bit of content. Yeah. Hey, look, sustainable living is a big thing, Aussie trader, amongst the freedom networks. I've noticed, it's one of those things, I see, the Townsville Bulletin and the Guardian and all these other fuckwits who consider themselves media excuse me, love to make take the piss out of my place groups, for instance, and other freedom groups of being right-wing extremists and all this other shit. But 9 times out of 10, I find they're actually generally a lovely bunch of people, and they're more interested in gardening than they are politics. They, and homebrew and things like that. It's just bringing everything back to an old school do-it-yourself true sustainable living. Like when you think about it, we're recycling our own bottles all the time. We're only buying raw ingredients and stuff. So you think about if you go for the carbon thing, which I think is utter bullshit, but all the fuel and the cost of transporting already ready-made products around, when you're getting raw ingredients and making it yourself, you're actually doing a great deed for, bringing down this alleged carbon crap and, transport costs and all this stuff, like making stuff yourself is the way to go. But the elitist scum don't make money out of that now, do they? Sustainable living off grid, yeah. Yeah, well, everything's little bits and pieces. Like, I mean, honestly, I think homebrew is a big part of it. And, as I've always said, nectar of the gods. And, cleanliness is close to godliness. And if you're not clean when you're making your homebrew, you get infections. So cleanliness is close to godliness, and I'm making the nectar of the gods. So, there's a lot of spirituality in this, and the idea of, you putting your own heart and soul into the creation of your own nectar of the gods. Man, you nearly got my fucking cider out my nose there, Mark. Homebrew cider is a gateway drink to metho. Hooked on metho, eh? Man, I can't imagine he lasted long drinking metho, Mark. Exactly. Sustainable, I've been using the same bottles, recycling the same bottles for 7, close to 8 years now. That's proper recycling. I'm not driving it up and down the street at my expense, like, the 10 cents collection crap. Tell me how that's fucking sustainable. Oh, Aussie trader. That's a bit harsh, like maybe some people just don't have the space. Like street, I'd love to set up a still, but I don't have the space. I just stick to the ciders and the beers. Yeah, sure. I don't know. I've never heard of Rapadura. I'm not even sure how to say it, mate. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, you got to run through the still proper, Aussie trader. Well, we'll discuss that further another day. It is getting late. We are reaching that 3 o'clock thing. And I have noticed the longer you run a podcast, the more viewers you end up with, which is very interesting. All right. Hey, look, we've all had a bad batch. We've all had a bad batch. Every now and then you brew something and you're like, that just didn't work. Or again, I didn't follow the golden rule of cleanliness is godliness. It's just a little bit of, didn't clean something right. You got to be a bit of a perfectionist. And like, hats off to some people who are like the ultimate perfectionists. So you're sitting there, like getting the raw ingredients of the wheats and the barleys and all that, and boiling it all up for hours on end. Like, I mean, I cheat. I just use tins because I don't have that much time. But that's another discussion for another day. And Aussie Trader, I look forward to that yarn about homebrew. That'll be great. Look, thank you everybody very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. It's do a brewing podcast. We will, Lindsay. We will. It's on the cards now. It's up to Aussie Trader. I'm putting it on Aussie Trader's shoulders. I'm sure it's a burden he's willing to carry after 25 years. Thank you, Victoria. Sips to that. The final sips. And, like I said, NQ Freedom Network, please become a Patreon. Like, seriously, if you love this shit, like, this is my street performer moment. I've done, 2 hours and 50 minutes performing, having a yarn, we're working with my magic crystal ball over here. Batman's keeping us safe. Batman's keeping us safe behind us here. Thanks to my good friend, Mark James, for providing that. Enough Patreons. Imagine what we can do. It'll be a beautiful world. I look forward to the day there's enough Patreons to make this sustainable, like homebrew. So until next time, go and have a good hard look in that mirror. Deep hard look. Ask yourself, how can you get involved? How can you make this world a better place? What are you good at? Start simple. Doesn't have to be great. But if there is some astounding end at the end of this life, I think one of the scariest concepts that was ever thrown to me of, that the passing on to the next realm is that not so much that you'd be judged by a god or a devil or a St. Peter or, anything else but yourself. Just like looking in that mirror. So have a good think about that. What can you do? How can we all work together to stop these evil satanic pedophiles doing what they're doing? Time for real change. And it's not this toilet tennis liberal Labor shit. Time to flush that turd. And let's get some real shit going on. Take it easy, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And I'll see you guys soon.